Chapter 4 and 21, Tradition of Early Marriage, Weapons Spree. On platform 9 3/4, the Hogwarts Express came to a halt in the evening. Aaron emerged through the partition wall with his stroller and pets. As usual, Jins was there waiting for him and took the suitcase from him. Uncle Jins, I have to travel again this holiday, don't I? Aaron asked cautiously after getting into the car. Did Miss Adrian tell you? Jins suddenly remembered and nodded with a complicated expression. The third crystal in the Chamber of Secrets has lit up, which means, young master, you need to carry out the next field trip within a year. It's only been 2 years, Aaron exclaimed, looking disheartened. I haven't recovered from the shadow of the last trip, and now I have to go again. This time is normal, Jins explained earnestly. According to the records in the history of the Gaius family, on average, every 2 to 3 years, the outstanding descendants go to other worlds to gain experience and leave the Gaius name behind. Of course, if the young master doesn't want to, you can marry and have children, become the god of magic, or inherit the position of patriarch. Just choose one. It takes a lot of time to become the god of magic, and it is impossible to inherit the position of patriarch. The easiest way is to get married and have children, but it is a pity that the blind date between the young master and Miss Kellia has been postponed. The corner of Aaron's mouth twitched violently. He waved his hand dismissively. It's not a pity, not at all. A blind date at the age of 15? Thank you for thinking of it. Early marriage is almost a tradition in the Gaius family, and a blind date is not a marriage. Blind dates, engagement, marriage, and having children are the correct procedures. Enough. Aaron rolled his eyes, exasperated. Don't mention any traditions to me. My ancestors before me were not firm in their will, so they entered the grave of marriage so early. Don't compare me to them. I may not be able to compare with them in other respects, but they are definitely inferior to me in this respect. Hearing this, Jins showed a meaningful smile. Many people thought the same as the young master at first, but after that. But they couldn't bear it after that, right? Aaron interjected with a trace of disdain in his tone. They came back honestly to accept the blind date arranged by the family. That's only a very small part. Most of them pursued their own love and completed the task of getting married and having children in other worlds. Wait, Aaron suddenly felt like he had discovered a new continent. He seemed to understand why the family tree was so chaotic. No wonder many women's surnames were unfamiliar. They couldn't resist. The flow of time is different, Jins casually explained. It's okay to stay in other worlds for a year or two, but if you stay for 7 or 8 years, 10 years, decades, or even hundreds of years, it's very easy to meet someone you like. It's normal. Aaron forced a smile and had nothing to say. He might be able to withstand it for more than 10 years, but for hundreds of years, he wasn't a monk, and it was inevitable to marry and have children. For a moment, he suddenly felt that accepting a blind date wasn't impossible. His parents had good judgment, and it could help him avoid many detours. But on second thought, he dismissed the idea again. He was still young. He didn't want to press the fast-forward button on life. He preferred to let nature take its course. Back at Gaius Castle, the sky was completely dark. Vico and Lasana didn't come home because they still had things to do, and Aaron was already used to it. Uncle Jins, may I ask, when will I leave this time? It's up to the young master to decide, but it can't be delayed for too long, Jins said in a very considerate manner. I suggest waiting for the patriarch and the others to come back. It would be better for you to meet them before you leave. All right, Aaron nodded. When will they come CK? 3 days later, Jins replied. Aaron blinked in confusion, then sneered. Uncle Jins, you must be joking. You just said I could rest for 3 days, and then I can go. Jins looked momentarily taken aback and then smiled awkwardly. It seems the timing is a bit tight. A bit? Aaron retorted sarcastically. It's been less than a week since the end of the Triwizard tournament. You should know what I've been through. It's not just ordinary tiredness. You expect me to rest for only 3 days? Is that how you treat your young master? I'm sorry, young master. I was careless. How about a month? Jins suggested tentatively. A month should be enough for you to rest well. Any longer, and the family's mission would be delayed. That's more like it. I can accept that, Aaron conceded. All right, then I will immediately arrange the class schedule for the next month, Jin said. Class? Class schedule? Aaron was stunned for a moment, his face twitching slightly. You mean I have to go to cram school for a month before traveling? Yes, Jin's replied bluntly. You can rest for a few days after you return, but it's better not to waste time before leaving. I watched your battle with the Death Eaters closely. Your application of various magics is good, but the level of the battle was not as high as I expected. So the next class schedule will focus on improving that. You should be mentally prepared. Cut! I was just trying to stall for time, Aaron said, giving Jin's a hard look. I wanted to ensure that some people could come over in time after receiving my call for help. Fighting and acting at the same time is exhausting. Otherwise, I would have had the confidence to kill more than half of the Death Eaters. But unexpectedly, some people arrived early but didn't show up until my life was in danger. Jin's froze for a moment, recalling Aaron's battle. There did seem to be some perfunctory elements in the thrill. Realizing this, Jin's immediately changed his expression and said awkwardly but politely, Master, this is a misunderstanding. Your class schedule will not be so strict this holiday. Except for some necessary courses, you can arrange the rest by yourself. Aaron rolled his eyes. If he could fight now, he would find a way to resist. The alarm clock went off at 6 o'clock in the morning. Aaron sat up from the bed and yawned lazily. It was better to sleep comfortably at home without worrying about so many messy things. After a simple breakfast, Aaron took Abe and followed Jin's into the forging room. Alger was hammering a long sword that shone with a milky white light. The low buzzing sound echoed throughout the forging room, majestic and powerful. The crimson magma formed red lines, and every time the hammer fell, strands of red light penetrated into the sword's body. After an unknown amount of time, Alger stopped his movements and threw the sword into the furnace. Huh? I thought it was finished, Aaron said with regret. The beauty you think is just a sword embryo, not even a semi-finished product, Alger said, pouring a metaphorical bucket of cold water on Aaron's enthusiasm. It needs to be indestructible and have special abilities. The piece I built for you is almost the pinnacle of my life, but it is still far from being completed. It needs more rare materials. Aaron nodded and then gave Abe a wink. Reluctantly, Abe took out the heavy silver and the fire elemental crystal from his pocket. Alger's eyes brightened, and he quickly took the 2 pieces of ore. With these 2, the sword embryo can be completed, Alger said. What else? Aaron looked at Abe and urged, Hurry up and take it out. Abe's 2 white paws poked at each other, clearly reluctant to part with the precious materials. After a brief struggle, it finally produced a glass bottle. Tears of the Phoenix. I think this might be useful, it said. Alger pondered for a moment before nodding slowly. It is indeed useful, but the quantity is too small. Otherwise, it could imbue this sword with certain characteristics. I'll find a way to get more, Aaron said, gritting his teeth. He felt he couldn't afford to be too sympathetic towards Fox. The Phoenix should shed more tears for his artifact. No need, Alger replied with a smile. Rant has enough spiritual liquid to replace the Phoenix's tears. Aaron secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Bullying Fox had to be done sparingly. Otherwise, Dumbledore would eventually intervene. Once or twice might be acceptable, but too frequently, and the old man would turn against them. Ancestor, are the firearms I requested ready? Aaron asked. Almost, Alger said, snapping his fingers. Countless precision parts floated in midair. Everything you need is here, except for... Blood, I know, Aaron interrupted. He immediately cut his palm, and dark red blood flowed from the wound, absorbed by the magic circle on the parts. Alger raised an eyebrow, and with a wave of his hand, the parts began to assemble automatically. After a moment, a revolver, an automatic pistol, a light sniper rifle, and a heavy sniper rifle floated in front of Aaron. The revolver has a capacity of 6 rounds and is slightly weaker than the flintlock. Its advantage is the ease of reloading. The automatic pistol has a capacity of 30 rounds, and the magic circle on it can convert magic power into ammunition. Theoretically, as long as you have enough magic power, the bullets are unlimited. However, these magic bullets are not as powerful as enchanted ones. The light sniper rifle has a long range and is easy to operate, while the heavy sniper rifle has an even longer range but is more challenging to use. You'll need to explore their specifics on your own. Aaron nodded vigorously, inspecting each firearm. The comfortable texture and exquisite craftsmanship made it hard for him to put them down. Fortunately, there was a shooting range in the family's secret room where he could test their performance later. With the weapons he had been eagerly anticipating now in his possession, Aaron left the secret room with a satisfied smile on his face. He then visited other secret rooms to greet over 20 ancestors, ensuring their professional skills hadn't regressed and starting this year's learning tasks. The Magic Circle was a compulsory course, and both Jins and Aaron placed great importance on this type of magic. Additionally, medicine and botany were added to this year's class schedule. Chapter 4 and 22, Preparing Self-Defense Props. Boom, boom, boom. One after another, bullets hit the target with precision. Ab was enthusiastically waving the flag and shouting, while Jins was meticulously recording the scores in a small notebook. Every shot is above the 8th ring. Your accuracy is impressive, Jins remarked lightly. When you used to train me in marksmanship, you were much more serious. Why are you a bit impatient now? Aaron asked. I'm not impatient. I just think it's a bit inappropriate for you to use the magical weapon that Lord Algar painstakingly crafted as an ordinary muggle weapon, young master, Jins replied. Aaron stroked the automatic pistol in his hand and smiled wryly. I'm just getting proficient with this weapon. It's my first time experiencing converting my own magical energy into bullets without changing the magazine. I don't want to use it as a training gun, but the enchanted bullets I've made so far are only suitable for flintlock guns. They won't fit in the magazine at all. Besides, enchanted bullets are very precious, so I can't bear to use them for training. Jins shook his head helplessly, momentarily speechless. When will Vico and the others come back? They said 3 days, but it's been half a month. Do they still remember they have a son? Aaron asked, frowning. There was a little accident, Jins replied awkwardly. Didn't Voldemort come back? Don't be ridiculous. They wouldn't be caught by Voldemort, would they? Aaron retorted. That's unlikely, but because of his resurrection, the magical world is now in turmoil. Some hidden magical creatures are becoming restless. The head of the family and his wife needed to show the positions of Gaius and the other 3 major families to all forces and races, so they are delayed, Jins explained. Aaron frowned slightly. Is that necessary? There is a difference between acquiescing and explicitly stating a position, Jins replied. That's true, Aaron nodded. He then looked at Jins and said, Since the magical world isn't so safe, why don't you prepare some self-defense props? Jins hesitated. The young master is usually protected by someone, and Hogwarts has Dumbledore in charge. Halfway through his speech, Jins met Aaron's disdainful eyes and immediately changed his tone. The items in the treasury can be taken by the young master at will. You know that's not what I want, Aaron rolled his eyes. The treasury held many priceless treasures, but he didn't need those. What he needed were items to increase his combat power or temporarily save his life. Master, Jin sighed, have you ever seen any wizarding family that would hand over their heritage to a child still in school? To a certain extent, with our protection, as long as you don't actively seek trouble, young master, your situation is not dangerous and even safe. There's no need for those items. I understand what you're saying, but keeping those things will just let them gather dust. If you don't give them to me, who will use them? Aaron argued. The Patriarch and Madam, Jins replied confidently, puffing out his chest. Aaron almost choked. What did you say? The first thing your father did after inheriting the position of Patriarch was to get rid of the 6 bodyguards arranged by the old Patriarch. The second thing was to equip himself with a whole set of magical armor. It gave him a sense of security, Jins explained. Huh? Aaron's mouth twitched, and he couldn't help but laugh bitterly. As expected of my father, his idea aligns perfectly with mine. Jins hesitated. The Patriarch also said this, and the old Patriarch probably did the same at the time. Hearing this, Aaron fell into a state of confusion. He never expected that the family's wealth would not be used for the future of the family, but for the current Patriarch. But after thinking about it carefully, it seemed reasonable, though it was hard for him to accept. Afterpause. As soon as Aaron dragged his tired body out of Wayhet's secret room, Jins hurried over. "I'll talk about it later if there's anything to do." "Let me rest for a while," Aaron said weakly. He had just asked Ancestor Wayhet to show him the destructive power of forbidden magic. But as soon as he opened his mouth, he was beaten for half an hour by Fancy Hanging. The reason was that he hadn't learned how to run yet, so he wanted to fly. The old man used all the elementary magic circles and was very measured in his actions. He managed to avoid causing pain and injury, but it made Aaron feel extremely tormented. His physique was extremely strong. If an ordinary person were beaten like this, they wouldn't be able to bear it for half a minute, let alone half an hour. "It's a little too much," Jins clicked his tongue secretly. "You are also a direct descendant of Master Wilhelm." "Who said no?" Aaron replied bitterly. "Let Abe heal it." "It's up to you if you can," Aaron continued. "The ancestor sealed its healing ability, and it can only be unsealed after 2 hours. After experiencing the pain for 2 hours, he said it was a lesson for me to aim high." "Where am I so ambitious? I just want to pursue the goal of a stage. Is it wrong?" Ab nodded his head, whimpering. It was the first time he felt so weak. "Lord Wilhelm has such a temper," Jins comforted. "Just get used to it." "It doesn't hurt to stand and talk." Aaron immediately gave him a blank stare. Originally, he did a good job of keeping secrets. No one except a few people knew that Abe had the ability to heal. But since Abe fell into Adrian's hands, it didn't take long for her to dig out this secret. She decisively told Jins, and then he was sad. In the past, these ancestors were more restrained in giving him tutoring, but since they knew that there was an extra medicine bottle beside him, they looked at him with red eyes. The lessons he had learned these days were more than the sum of the previous years, which was called cruelty. "Master, the owner and wife are back." "They're back," Aaron said. "Please help me. I'm in pain all over my body now." Jins laughed, dumbfounded, and carefully helped Aaron up. The two came to the living room, and before Aaron could react, Lasana gave him a big hug. "Ah, it hurts." Lasana hurriedly let go and said with a worried face, "I'm not working hard?" "It's none of your business, ma'am," Jins sneered, and then explained what happened in the past half hour. Lasana frowned and helped Aaron to the sofa. "Did you make your ancestor unhappy? Otherwise, he wouldn't beat you like this." "I just wanted him to show the power of forbidden magic." Puff. Vico just squirted out his half-drunk coffee. "Good fight," Vico wiped his mouth and said. "Forbidden magic is a magic that can only be used at the holy magician level, and it is powerful enough to destroy a town in an instant. Don't you want to demonstrate on your own site? You can just practice that kind of magic on paper, but if you really use it, your magic power will be drained instantly." Aaron curled his lips, thinking of the only forbidden magic he knew so far, so he didn't say anything. Back then, using the Hall of Divine Singing to cover Slytherin's Chamber of Secrets, even if the number of those lightning crystals were deliberately controlled, would still consume a huge amount. "You performed really well in the Tri-Wizard tournament this time." Lasana looked at Aaron teasingly. "Is it just to avoid a blind date?" "It's too early for me," Aaron shrugged without embarrassment. "I personally think that at least we can talk about this kind of thing when we are adults, but I can't stand you elders urging too hard." "You have to understand our difficulties," Lasana persuaded earnestly. "I understand, so I didn't lose my temper when my eldest sister talked about it." "How dare you?" Vico said disdainfully. "I haven't seen you resist successfully in so many years." "Good men don't fight with women. I'm doing it for my uncles and aunts," Aaron said guiltily, unwilling to admit that his elder sister's persistence was something he couldn't resist. The blood coercion was still suppressing him. "After a year, you must meet with Kilia no matter what," Vico said solemnly. "Delaying this matter won't be good for anyone." "Understood," Aaron replied tiredly. "But don't bother me with such things in the future." Vico and Lasana exchanged smiles. "There's no need to think about it. If this kind of thing isn't settled, we'll all feel irritated," Vico added. Hey, you really care about me," Aaron said, feeling a bit speechless. Originally, he had planned to have a frank talk with Kelia if he couldn't avoid it. A year later, she would be 15 or 16 years old, so even if he politely rejected her, she wouldn't be too heartbroken. but he didn't expect that his efforts would be in vain. It could only be said that his parents' love was too overwhelming, so much so that he couldn't bear it. My own son, who else would we treat well if not you? Vico smiled happily, pretending not to hear the depression in Aaron's voice. Have you met anyone suitable at school this year? Lisanna asked. No, Aaron replied lightly. I'm only 15 years old. Is it appropriate for you to ask me that? We're just concerned. How about your relationships with your female friends? Lisanna inquired. Just so-so, Aaron responded. Lisanna snapped her fingers and listed Luna Lovegood, Hermione Granger, Fleur Delacour. Stop, Aaron interrupted hastily, giving Ginz a hard look. He must have told his parents, otherwise they probably only knew Hermione Granger by name. Sensing his young master's eyes, Ginz looked up at the ceiling as if nothing had happened. Okay, Vico shook his head with a smile. Your sister provided the names, and Ginz was just responsible for passing on the message. Explain it, Lisanna said with interest. It's nothing, really. It's completely different from what you think, Aaron said seriously. But looking at the playful eyes of the three, he couldn't help but feel a bit anxious. Good grief. The words, "Don't believe it," were written all over their faces. Luna just danced with me at the Yule Ball because Professor McGonagall pulled me over. Hermione is just a pure friendship. She can be regarded as a good friend, but not a girlfriend, don't get me wrong. As for Fleur, it's purely because I helped her a few times in the Triwizard Tournament, but that was all to fulfill Big Sister's request. That's not enough to block the death curse for her, Ginz said angrily. If you don't speak, no one will treat you as dumb, Aaron said fiercely. If it wasn't for drawing you out, I wouldn't have put myself in danger. Chapter 423, The Second Trip, Another Free Fall, Death Curse? Vico frowned slightly. Tell me exactly what's going on. Ginz immediately recounted what he had witnessed during the Triwizard Tournament, detailing every aspect with such precision that it felt as if one were experiencing it firsthand. Aaron's mouth twitched as he listened. Even with a Pensieve, he doubted he could have seen it so clearly. It's too risky, Lisanna said seriously, looking directly at Aaron. You dared to accept Voldemort's death curse. How many lives do you think you have? 2, Aaron weakly raised 2 fingers. I wouldn't risk my life without a plan. I have a potion that can revive someone who dies within an hour. Lisanna's expression froze. Then she slapped Aaron's forehead hard. That's not okay. By the time you're a corpse, who will give you the potion to save you? There are still people, Aaron whispered. He could transfer his memory to his mind-body at any time, and before death, he had ordered all the shadow ninjas to reveal their locations. But by then, he had already acquired the divine power of immortality, so there was no need to use such a trick. Still talking back, Lisanna said angrily. Do you think we can't control you because you're too powerful? Nothing of the sort. If I wasn't absolutely certain, I wouldn't take the risk. I believe that, Vico nodded. But you're still too impulsive. There's always a contingency in everything. There's nothing wrong with it, Aaron said confidently. I can guarantee that I won't die. Vico and Lisanna exchanged glances and said nothing more. They knew their son well enough to trust that he never made empty boasts. All right, we understand, Vico said, his tone calm and assured. Aaron felt a few question marks pop up in his mind. Why am I so unbelievable? The fact is, you resisted the killing curse for a girl, Lisanna said with a smile. Wasn't she moved to tears and offered to make a body promise or something? Aaron blinked, a sneer forming at the corner of his mouth. No, sorry to disappoint you. It doesn't matter. There will be plenty of time in the future. I believe your heroic act will stay in her mind for a long time, Lisanna said firmly. Ginz, gather all the information about the Delacour family and prepare a briefing for me. No problem, ma'am. It can be done in 3 days. And Luna Lovegood. Okay. Aaron's whole body went numb instantly. He realized he had to be more careful when talking to girls in the future, lest his mother put him on the blind date list for no reason. The family of 3 rarely got together and had a happy dinner. Vico and Lisanna knew what Aaron was going to face next. Apart from nagging about Aaron's lifelong events, they tacitly avoided mentioning it, not wanting to add unnecessary pressure on him. After 2 hours, Ab regained his energy and quickly ran to Aaron for treatment. Feeling the pain in his body gradually disappear, Aaron let out a long sigh of relief and lay lazily on the bed in his bedroom. Today's loss is settled for us, but the future will last forever. Sooner or later, the two of us will be able to beat him, and when the time comes, we will avenge our injustice, Aaron said. Abby nodded earnestly, raising his right paw high to express his support for this attitude. More than a week later, Aaron brought Abby to the family's most important secret room. The third crystal exuded a bright light, urging him to set off quickly. Several family members were waiting for him there. Their expressions varied, some relieved, some excited, and some worried. "I don't know how long you'll be gone this time. Take good care of yourself," Vico said, patting Aaron on the shoulder and handing him the necessary funds and enough dry food for 3 days. "If you stay long enough, find me a daughter-in-law," Lysana said, wiping her tears and putting a cloak on Aaron. "Aaron, can we change the subject?" he said, exasperated. Lysana shook her head. "You're not getting any younger, Aaron. It's time to start nanking about these things. Besides, if you get married and have children, you can come back and avoid taking any more risks." Aaron laughed. "That sounds too restrictive." Abe leaned over, looking at Aaron with a hint of reluctance, then slipped Phoenix's tears into Aaron's pocket. "This is your second trip. Shouldn't you be able to bring more things this time?" Aaron asked, his tone meaningful. "Yes," Vico nodded, then shifted the conversation. "But Abe still can't come. Its identity is too special." A slight disappointment flashed in Abe's eyes, but he waved his hand dismissively. Even without it, the master could still return safely. "Can I bring some more magical items?" Aaron inquired. "Didn't you already take all those guns with you? What more do you want?" Vico teased. "You can be greedy, but don't be insatiable." Aaron's mouth twitched, and he gave Vico an international-friendly gesture. Insatiable greed? Compared to a father who equipped himself with a full set of magical gear as soon as he became the patriarch, Aaron felt he was far from deserving such a label. "Master, this is for you," Jin said, handing over a small bottle of Felix elixir. "At least it will ensure a safe landing." "Heh! Ensure safety? I drank this last time and almost ended up in a box. Free-falling from thousands of meters nearly killed me," Aaron retorted. Jin's remained unfazed. "Master, why do you think there's extreme training in your schedule? Last time, it wasn't the Felicity Potion's fault. If you hadn't drunk it and improved your luck, the landing might have been even more dangerous." Aaron was momentarily speechless. He felt there was some truth in Jin's words, but something still seemed off. Taking a deep breath, Aaron downed the Felicity elixir in one gulp. Whether the landing was dangerous or not, he was confident he could handle these minor troubles. However, the world he was about to enter was still a significant concern. If he had to travel long distances and participate in wars like last time, it would be tolerable. But if he ended up in a world full of dangers, it would be a sad situation. Professor Trelawney's prophecy mentioned it would be a short trip and that he would return soon. It could be a novice village with easy tasks, or it could be a boss's lair where a powerful enemy could kill him shortly after his arrival. "Bless the ancestors, please arrange a less difficult journey for me," Aaron prayed devoutly. As his voice fell, the branches and leaves of the giant tree shook slightly. Although subtle, everyone present noticed it. "Is this so considerate?" Aaron felt a sudden surge of happiness. "I like it. It's so humane." "Don't get too happy too soon," Vico warned, pouring cold water on Aaron's excitement. "This time may be easier, but it means next time it won't be." Hearing this, Aaron swallowed hard, feeling a lump in his throat. He began to understand what Professor Trelawney meant by a particularly long journey, and he had brought it upon himself. "It's okay," Lysana said, unfazed and even slightly excited. "As long as you get married and have children before the next trip, you can avoid it perfectly." Aaron felt increasingly bitter. It seemed he had found a way to break the prophecy, but he was unwilling to follow it. "I'm leaving now. I'll be back soon if everything goes well," Aaron said, making a small cut on his finger. A drop of blood flew out and was absorbed by the giant tree. A wooden door appeared, revealing a blue tunnel in front of everyone. Abe touched his head subconsciously. It had tried to follow Aaron last time and ended up bumping into the tree. It didn't dare to try again this time. "Wait," Vico suddenly stopped Aaron. Are the precautions clear? Yes, they're clear. I hope this time I won't have to free fall or encounter any. Aaron smiled and strode into the portal, hoping he wouldn't encounter any strange old men or powerful monsters. At the same time, the missing body in Shenming Temple seemed to sense something. It turned into light spots and dissipated, with half of its magic power returning to the main body. What the? Aaron cursed as he found himself in midair, the strong wind making his mouth tremble and his teeth chatter. He was free falling again, gripping his wand tightly. This wasn't his first time experiencing such a fall, and although he was angry, he had made some preparations. However, he soon realized that his precautions, shock absorption, deceleration, and softening the ground, were unnecessary. Below him was a vast expanse of blue sea. He could feel the sea breeze even from a few hundred meters above the water's surface. Beyond the sea, there was a lush forest. The scenery was beautiful, almost like a resort in his world. But his mid-air yelling added a strange sense of discord to the picturesque view. With a loud splash, Aaron hit the water. He didn't use a water-repelling spell, preferring to conserve his magic until he understood the world's normalcy or confirmed that no one was around. He dived for a while due to inertia before beginning to float back up. Puff! Aaron's head broke the surface of the sea, and he took deep breaths. After a moment, he started swimming towards the shore. Once on the beach, his entire body was soaked, and the sticky feeling was uncomfortable. He took off his cloak and coat, muttering to himself, "Next time, I'll definitely prepare a swimsuit." He glanced around at his surroundings. The first thing he noticed was the endless sea. He couldn't tell if he was on a huge island or the edge of a piece of land. If it was the edge of the land, he needed to find a human town and a temporary place to stay. But if it was an island, he hoped it wasn't uninhabited. Otherwise, he might have to survive in the wilderness until he found humans or other intelligent life. Chapter 424, Survival in the Wilderness. Restoring part of history, sparks exploded under the night sky. Aaron sat beside the fire, wrapping himself in a dry cloak. After a whole afternoon of exploration, he came to a disheartening conclusion. This might be an uninhabited island. Within a radius of 30 miles, there were almost no other living creatures except for a few birds. Of course, it was also possible that he hadn't explored far enough. The island, or land, might be larger than it seemed, and perhaps there were people living farther away. But the most urgent matter was to fill his stomach. Even wizards need to eat. Vico had prepared 3 days' worth of food for him, but he hadn't expected to use it up so quickly. Aaron took out a can of meat, a piece of bread, and some compressed dry food from his provisions for dinner. After a simple meal, he lay down on a straw mat made of leaves and fell asleep. Early the next morning, Aaron woke up on time, thanks to his biological clock. Without delay, he extinguished the fire and continued his exploration. His food would last for only 2 more days. If he couldn't find a human town or village within that time, he would truly have to survive in the wilderness. Every once in a while, Aaron climbed to the top of a tree to check his direction. From morning to noon, he finally saw a touch of clear blue amidst the lush green. "Heaven can't stop me!" Aaron almost laughed out loud. He immediately sped up, and after walking another 7 or 8 miles, came to a clear stream. It was the first time he had seen such a clear river. The rocks at the bottom and even the fish and shrimp in the depths were visible, though their numbers were pitifully small. Goo! The sound of his stomach growling suddenly echoed. The protest from his body made Aaron feel helpless. With no one around, he waved his wand decisively, and a fresh grass carp was brought to the shore. In half a minute, he completed a series of operations, killing the fish, bleeding it, removing scales, disemboweling, scraping the black film, removing gills, and tidying the fins. At this moment, Aaron felt grateful to his ancestor, Sarks. Although he had only learned from him for a month, he had become a pretty good cook. At least he wouldn't suffer too much in the wilderness. After placing the processed grass carp on a rock, Aaron prepared to light a fire. But as he was about to break a few branches, a strange feeling came over him. "Can you not hurt me?" Aaron immediately let go, convinced he hadn't misheard. The tree was alive and had self-consciousness. Aaron took a deep breath and began to perceive with all his concentration, but he didn't notice anything. The consciousness seemed to have fallen into a deep sleep or was deliberately hidden. Out of awe for the unknown, he decided not to harm the tree. More importantly, there were countless trees of the same type in this forest. It was unlikely that one tree would anger the entire forest, but there was still a chance. He wasn't scared, he just didn't want to cause trouble. Having regained his missing body, he was now a veritable great magister. Even if he couldn't defeat an entire forest, he could retreat safely. Because of this episode, his meal of grilled fish was tasteless, but it replenished enough energy. Aaron walked along the river, confident that he would eventually encounter some form of civilization. If nothing else, he would at least get out of the forest. As night fell, a 100-meter-high cliff blocked his way. Aaron rolled his eyes in exasperation. After walking the whole day, he finally got out of the forest, only to face such a daunting obstacle. Rock climbing wasn't difficult for him, but he had no interest in doing it at night. He gathered some dry branches to keep the fire of hope burning, preventing dangerous creatures from approaching. Then he found a relatively clean spot to rest. Aaron lay on a rock, staring up at the stars. Professor Trelawney's divination class had included astrology, and while Aaron preferred using crystal balls for divination, he had picked up some knowledge about the stars: Tawa, Alambi, victory, peace, Sirius, war, and unexpected enemies. Hiss! Aaron gasped. It seemed that a more complicated world awaited him, but it shouldn't be more complicated than the previous one. After all, the World Tree had arranged a simpler trip for him this time. Even if he had to participate in a war, it wouldn't be too large, or so he hoped. Aaron comforted himself with this thought. Suddenly, he remembered something and sat up abruptly. "System, sign in," he commanded. He had almost forgotten about it. This was the fastest way to gather clues about this world, at least to know if he was on a desert island. The host signed in at an unknown ruin and received 5 magic points, the system responded. Aaron blinked, resisting the urge to yell. "I've been walking for a whole day and haven't found any traces of ruins, and they're still unknown. System, can you be more perfunctory? This system is already very user-friendly. Otherwise, the host's sign-in location would be an unknown world." Aaron sighed. "You are vicious. Is this the benefit of holding the final right of interpretation? Really learned." "Unknown ruins?" Aaron repeated the words, raising his gaze to the top of the cliff. It should be there. Even if it wasn't, he would have to climb over the cliff tomorrow. The next morning, Aaron opened his ration pack. After eating and drinking, he began rock climbing. A cliff of this height was nothing to him, and he easily climbed to the top. But looking at the dense jungle above the cliff, his spirits sank. It was too much. It felt like a maze. At that moment, Aaron considered using phantom travel or flying over with Animagus. But reason held him back. He didn't understand this world yet, and it would be a tragedy if the local residents were hostile to magic. Fortunately, after a short walk, he found a road paved with rocks, which lifted his spirits. Proceeding along the rocky road, the forest gradually turned into grassland, and a ruin appeared in front of Aaron. Unsure if anyone was inside, he approached cautiously. The ruin was large and devoid of traps, resembling a magnificent palace that had been eroded by time. However, the scattered boulders suggested it had been captured by an army and turned into a ruin hundreds of years ago. Catapult, the palace hundreds of years ago. Aaron rubbed his chin, carefully observing the damage. The level of technology in this world seemed low, even worse than the last world he visited. There was no damage from thermal weapons, and the boulders thrown by the catapult were irregular, indicating that the army hadn't perfected the weapon. Unless there had been a technological explosion, the people here should still be in the age of cold weapons. Thinking of this, Aaron's mouth curled into an exaggerated smile. He had 5 guns in his dressing room, which were proper artifacts in the era of cold weapons. As long as he confirmed there were no transcendent beings who could threaten him, he could roam freely. But for now, he needed to keep a low profile. Aaron inspected the entire ruin from the outside to the inside. The weeds on the side of the road were undisturbed, the fruits on the bushes were unpicked, and there was no smoke in the air. These clues confirmed that there were no other people here. Aaron found himself in a desolate land, devoid of intelligent life or even wild animals. "It's time to study the history of this place," he muttered to himself. He then cleared a large stone wall and began reconstructing the palace's prototype based on the ruins he had discovered. Rows of fragmented stone pillars, broken walls. "This must have been the main hall," he observed. A few steps lead to a semicircular platform. This should be where the throne was. But, am I wrong? Aaron's eyes fell on 4 pedestals on the platform, and he couldn't help but question his analysis. In his understanding, a country could only have one king, but these 4 pedestals suggested that this long-lost kingdom might have had 4 kings of equal status. This seemed too far-fetched, unless there was a greater emperor above these 4 kings to maintain the balance of power, or perhaps these 4 kings had established the kingdom together. Shaking his head, Aaron decided to stop overthinking. It was enough to know that 4 kings had ruled this land hundreds of years ago before a powerful enemy attacked and destroyed the kingdom. The enemy did not occupy the kingdom but plundered it. Wait, plundered? The word robber flashed in Aaron's mind, but as his gaze drifted to the blue sea, robber transformed into pirate. Aaron felt as if he had uncovered a truth. Pirates had plundered the wealth of this kingdom. The number of these pirates must have been substantial to conquer a kingdom. However, hundreds of years had passed, and those pirates might have left this land, possibly even establishing a new kingdom elsewhere. Gollum! Aaron was startled by his own imagination, and then couldn't help but laugh. A low-budget version of One Piece? How is that possible? He chuckled. Having roughly pieced together part of the history from hundreds of years ago, Aaron began to search the ruins more carefully. He had little faith in the character of the pirates, but held some hope that the kingdom might have hidden something before its destruction. Starting a meticulous search from the corner of the palace, Aaron found a pure gold chess piece in the grass, which indicated that the pirates hadn't taken everything. But what truly surprised him was the discovery of a secret door beneath a ruined wall. The door, made of wood, had been weakened by hundreds of years of exposure to the elements. It was covered in spider webs and bore dense marks from moth-eaten damage. Chapter 425, Change of Equipment. Buy one, get one free. Araho Cave is open, Aaron muttered as the unlocking curse hit the wooden door. The rotten, disfigured doorknob turned and creaked. Aaron stepped into the dark room. Due to the war, part of the room's edge had collapsed, but overall, it was still intact. He made his way through an iron gate to the deepest part of the chamber. There he found 4 large wooden boxes, each guarded by a statue, 2 men and 2 women. It looks like they really are the 4 kings, Aaron mused, shaking his head before opening the treasure chests. Contrary to his expectations, the chests did not contain gold, silver, or precious historical books. Instead, they held the personal belongings of the 4 kings: clothes, armor, swords, bows, and arrows. The most eye-catching item, however, was a bottle of red potion. As a disciple of a potion master and a descendant of a botany master, Aaron's eyes were immediately drawn to the potion. It was an unbelievable concoction, likely as valuable as his resurrection potion. He swiped his wand across his palm, creating a bright red blood stain. Using a floating spell, he extracted a drop of the red potion, and his wound healed instantly. No matter how badly injured you are, you can recover as long as you have 1 breath? The effect is somewhat perverse, Aaron marveled, feeling a newfound respect for this world. Whoever had prepared this potion was no ordinary person. More astonishingly, the bottle seemed inexhaustible. For every drop taken, another appeared. The bows and arrows also possessed a certain magic. The red arrows seemed to increase the hit rate according to the owner's will. The 2 swords taken from the chests of the male kings remained sharp even after hundreds of years. Though not as fine as the enemy fencing sword or the beast-biting sword made by the elves, they were still formidable magic weapons. The equipment is good. It's mine now, Aaron declared calmly, feeling no guilt. Ownerless items belonged to whoever found them. Rather than letting them gather dust in a dark secret room, he would put them to good use. Perhaps his name would go down in history one day. When Aaron left the chamber, he had 2 swords at his waist, a set of bows and arrows on his back, and the bottle of red potion in his pocket. It had been 2 days since he arrived in this world, and for the first time he felt the joy of being fully armed. This trip had not been in vain. After changing his equipment, Aaron picked some fruits and continued on his journey. He didn't want to stay in the wilderness any longer than necessary. His priority was to find human society as soon as possible. Following the river, he walked into a dense forest, wading through water several times. He felt he was getting closer to civilization. Before he knew it, night had fallen. Camping deep in the jungle was dangerous, but he had no choice. He dug a pit in the ground, surrounded it with a thick layer of leaves, and lit a fire. Just as Aaron was about to eat dinner, the sound of hooves caught his attention. He pricked up his ears and listened carefully. It wasn't just one horse. There were at least 7 or 8 horses chasing after one. But what mattered was the riders. After surviving 3 days in the wilderness, Aaron knew he couldn't last much longer. He didn't care what these people were doing, but he couldn't let them pass by without making contact. Who knew how long he would have to wander in this forest otherwise? Determined, Aaron abandoned his meal and chased after the sound of the hooves. It seemed impossible to outrun a horse with just 2 legs, but Aaron managed it effortlessly. His steps were light, yet he kept pace with the horse team, gradually closing in on the leader. However, he soon realized something was amiss. The young man leading the group appeared panicked, with no clear route in mind, seemingly just trying to escape the 7 or 8 pursuers behind him. "Hey, this guy is being chased! How unlucky can I get to stumble upon this mess?" Aaron muttered, to himself, feeling frustrated. He needed these people to lead him to a human town, but the dilemma was whom to help. He couldn't discern which side was the good guys and which were the bad guys. If the larger group were the good guys, he would stop the fleeing young man without hesitation. Not only would he be promoting justice, but he could also seize a horse, making his journey easier. However, if the larger group were villains, he had to consider whether to help the young man. Saving him wouldn't be difficult, but it would mean offending the powerful forces behind the pursuers. Judging by their attire, these pursuers were elite soldiers, likely backed by nobles or royalty. Being new to this place, offending such powerful people would bring him more trouble than benefits. "It's really troublesome," Aaron sighed, patting his forehead. He decided to assess the situation first. If the young man could escape, Aaron would catch him and extract information about this world. If he couldn't escape, Aaron would help him first and then capture him to get the information. At that moment, the young man managed to put some distance between himself and his pursuers, but he was suddenly knocked off his horse by a protruding branch. One of his feet got caught in the stirrup, and he was dragged along by the horse. Aaron couldn't help but smirk. No wonder his ancestors taught him that the most important thing in driving was to be aware of your surroundings. This guy had a traffic accident just by turning his head. He was being dragged and scraped along the ground, which looked painful. However, he was clever enough to yank his foot free from the stirrup. The young man lay on the ground, panting heavily, relieved to have survived the ordeal. The opportunity has come, Aaron thought. Just as he was about to approach and control the man, 2 dwarves with swords emerged from the roots of a nearby tree. Startled, Aaron immediately hid behind a tree. Dwarves? There are dwarves in this world? Aaron's mind raced. Could this world, like the last one, be controlled by several powerful races? One dwarf rushed towards the young man, seemingly intent on killing him. But when he was less than a meter away, he stopped, surprise and confusion evident on his face. At that moment, the pursuers arrived. The dwarf took a deep look at the young man, then turned to the other dwarf and said, "Get rid of him." He then charged at the pursuers himself. The other dwarf approached the young man with a sword. The young man, realizing the danger, quickly reached out to grab something, but instead of a weapon, he grabbed a white horn. No! The dwarf panicked and tried to stop him, but it was too late. The melodious sound of the horn echoed through the forest. The dwarf, unable to kill the young man, knocked him unconscious with the hilt of his sword and began dragging him towards a tree hole. Suddenly, a scabbard struck the top of the dwarf's head. His vision went dark, and he collapsed to the ground. This one is called Praying Mantis Catching Cicadas, and the aureole is behind, Aaron muttered as he looked at the unconscious young human and the dwarf with a grim expression. Despite the situation, he felt a strange sense of satisfaction. It was like a buy-one-get-one-free deal. Without wasting any time, he dragged the two into a tree hollow, erasing as many traces as possible. The sound of approaching hoofbeats grew louder, and soon the pursuers arrived at the spot. "He was here just now," one of them said. "Maybe he fled deeper into the forest." "General, should we continue the pursuit?" another asked. The general hesitated for a moment before replying in a deep voice, "Let's go back. This forest is more dangerous than we anticipated. Capturing one mythical creature is enough to present to His Majesty." The group turned back, but now there was a black sack on one of the horses, its contents obvious. Inside the tree hollow, Aaron observed his surroundings. The interior was much larger than it appeared from the outside. It had a living room, bedroom, and kitchen, everything one might need. Though small, it was well equipped, lacking only a bathroom. It was a modest version of a more luxurious hideout. Aaron securely tied up the dwarf and the young human before sitting down on a chair. He tapped the table with his fingers, whispering the little information he had just gathered. Forest. Dangerous, mythical creatures. Humans held a certain reverence for the forest, but it was diminishing over time. Dwarves, likely mythical creatures, hid in the forest, fearing discovery by humans. This suggested that humans currently dominated the world, while other creatures barely survived in desolate areas. The ruins Aaron had found were in the forest, and the kingdom was ruled by 4 humans. It seemed that humans and mythical creatures might have coexisted peacefully hundreds of years ago, but everything changed drastically when the kingdom was captured by pirates. Goo! A growl from his stomach interrupted Aaron's thoughts. He realized he hadn't eaten all night. Surviving in the wilderness for 3 days had been exhausting, and he needed to replenish his energy. Reaching for his dry food bag, he found it empty, and his face fell. In his haste to chase these people, he had left all his rations, including wild fruits, in the pit he had dug earlier. Goo! His stomach protested again. "What's it called? You're hungry, am I not?" Aaron grumbled, then began rummaging through the kitchen. Despite the dwarf's resourcefulness, he found only a small bowl of rice and a few pieces of hard bread after searching thoroughly, even using Captain Jack's compass. "After all, it's the wilderness. Let's make do with this. It will fill our stomachs to some extent," he sighed, resigning himself to the meager meal. Chapter 426, Interrogation, the Sealing of Combat Power with question marks puff. A glass of cold water splashed onto the face of the young man, jolting him awake. He instinctively tried to touch the wound on his face, but his bound hands made him tremble, quickly bringing him back to full consciousness. "Who are you? Where is this place? And what was that dwarf who attacked me?" There was a trace of tension in the young man's otherwise calm voice. "Clap! Clap! Clap!" Aaron couldn't help but applaud. "Good questions. What you want to know is exactly what I want to find out." Before the young man could react, a cold, long sword was placed against his neck. "Name?" Aaron asked coldly. "Caspian," the young man replied, his mouth twitching. "Caspian the 10th. It seems you have some status, either noble or royal," Aaron said playfully, continuing his interrogation. "Gender? What?" Caspian looked bewildered. "Does this person have eye problems? Why would he need to ask? Didn't you understand? Or do you want me to check myself?" Aaron glanced at him in disgust. Damn it, what a pervert, making me, a handsome 15-year-old boy, want to wash my eyes. "Male, man, I'm a man," Caspian hastily clarified, then seemed to realize something. "You're only 15? Don't I look it?" "No, I mean kidnapping people at the age of 15, it's somewhat inappropriate." Aaron nodded and sighed. "I can't help it, I'm also very embarrassed." Caspian breathed a sigh of relief, thinking the young man still had a conscience. "Why don't you let me go first? Ha-ha. I'm not a bad person, and I won't hurt you, really." "Cut," Aaron curled his lips in disdain. "Our family's ancestral motto says that bad people never admit they're bad." Hearing this, Caspian almost laughed in frustration. "How can you let me go?" "If your answers satisfy me," Aaron said lightly. "What kind of place is this?" "Forest." Slap! The icy blade of the sword lightly patted Caspian's cheek. "Brother, do you think I'm easy to fool because I'm young? I've read books. Don't be so perfunctory with me, please." Feeling the cold touch on his face, Caspian swallowed. "I don't know what this place is. The forest was designated as a restricted area a long time ago, and this is the first time I've come here as an adult. I am very dissatisfied with this answer. Aaron shook his head helplessly, then slowly got up, raised his long sword, and made a gesture to chop. A cold light hit his head, and Caspian turned pale instantly. I know where this is. That's right. Those who know the current situation are wise. Aaron sheathed his sword and made a gesture of invitation. Continue. Will you let me go if I tell you? Caspian asked, trembling. The aura of Aaron's sword had genuinely scared him. It was the first time in his life he had felt such an aura. Not even the generals of the kingdom or his uncle could match it. Do you think you are in a position to negotiate with me? This is my only life, Caspian said straightforwardly. If you don't agree, just kill me. Ha! Aaron couldn't help but laugh, giving Caspian a thumbs up. I just like your rebellious look. I hope you can maintain this arrogance later. Caspian's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that he wanted to extract a confession by torture? Why am I so unlucky? Just out of the wolf's lair and into the tiger's den. Which family is this brat from? Aaron didn't know what was going on in Caspian's mind. He took a glass of cold water from the kettle, then lifted a sheet next to Caspian and poured it on. Puff! Cough! Cough! The little man woke up instantly, and the next moment he understood his situation clearly. He acted calmly, looked straight at Aaron and said, You knocked me out. You and he are both tied up, and there is no fourth person here. Aaron smiled shyly. If there is no accident, it must have been me. Despicable, actually engaging in a sneak attack. Woo, woo, woo. Halfway through his sentence, the little man was cut off. During the conversation, the dwarf's mouth was blocked by a piece of bread. Aaron skillfully drew his sword and placed it against the dwarf's neck. Next, I'll ask, and you answer. You know the consequences if I'm not satisfied. In desperation, the dwarf had no choice but to nod in submission. Name, Nikaburi. Gender? Can't you see? I'm a man. What about race? Dwarf. Aaron showed a satisfied smile and then looked at Caspian. I'll give you another chance. Otherwise, I think he will tell me some information that you know but don't know much about, right? Caspian nodded blankly, but his heart was filled with gloom. He thought he could bargain, but he didn't expect that they would directly change buyers. I'll talk, said Caspian bitterly. This forest may be ancient Narnia. Is it just this forest? The dwarf interrupted with a sneer. You Temorians are really good at tampering with history. No. You appeared in our kingdom hundreds of years ago, destroyed our homeland, slaughtered our people, and built an impenetrable castle with our wealth and resources. The survivors can only hide in the forest and linger, the dwarf sullenly shouted at Aaron in a low voice. Misunderstanding, big misunderstanding. Don't look at me with that hateful look. I'm not from Tamar. Aren't you a Temorian? Caspian said in amazement, but he quickly thought of something. That's right, the Temorians know about Prince Caspian, but you don't know anything about it. Who are you? There's no need to tell you, Your Highness, Aaron chuckled. If you're really curious, I can make up something, for example, a passenger from the other side of the ocean. But the history here is similar to what I analyzed. A group of pirates destroyed a magical kingdom, built a new kingdom on top of its ruins, and settled here for hundreds of years. It's really weird. Caspian was speechless for a moment and weakly cast his eyes on the dwarf. I thought all the Narnia people were extinct. Oh, sorry to disappoint you. You two, can you please understand your situation? Aaron waved his hand. There are still a few questions. If your answers satisfy me, I will let you go. You mean it? Asked Caspian suspiciously. Of course. Aaron nodded solemnly and then looked at the two seriously. Who is the strongest among the Narnian remnants and the Temorians? I can't answer that for you, Nikaburi said. If there is no accident, they should be human cows. They are very big. May I ask, do you refer to dwarves as a reference when you say big? Of course not. Nikaburi felt insulted and explained. They are much taller than humans, and they are also very strong. Okay, understood. Aaron thought that a man-cow should be similar to a troll, but with a relatively higher IQ. He turned his eyes to Caspian. And your answer? The most powerful person in the kingdom should be the general. His swordsmanship is better than mine, said Caspian. Just swordsmanship? He can defeat 5 elite soldiers in a sword fight. Hearing this, Aaron raised his brows slightly, and the corners of his mouth curled up even more. After the appraisal, the current inhabitants of this world are not a threat to him. He is a veritable ceiling of combat power, standing at a height that others can hardly look up to. I'm very satisfied with your answers. Aaron clapped his hands. Although I don't trust you very much, I can see that you didn't lie to me. The second question is, does Narnia have any supernatural powers, such as magic or something? Caspian and Nikaburi looked at each other. There is a legend, said Caspian, that when Aslan roars, winter ends, and when he shakes his mane, spring comes again. Aslan? A male lion, Nikaburi said lightly. According to legend, Aslan defeated the White Witch who had been in charge of winter for centuries and brought spring to Narnia. He canonized 4 human kings and brought peace and prosperity to Narnia, explained Caspian further. Hearing this, Aaron's heart suddenly turned cold, and he felt that the ceiling of his combat power should be. A wizard who can live for 100 years is by no means an ordinary person, let alone Aslan, who can defeat her. Thinking of the magical potion in his pocket, he suddenly felt that the world was not as simple as it appeared on the surface. There are definitely not many who can match him, but it is not impossible. When our homeland was attacked, the 4 kings did not appear, nor did Aslan, Nikabri said pessimistically. They abandoned us, and Narnia. Maybe it's just a legend and they don't exist at all. No, past experience tells me that legends are based on reality, and 9 out of 10 of what he said are true, Caspian replied. It took my teacher a long time to find Queen Susan's horn, the one I blew. That's why I didn't kill you right away, Nikabri said. I don't believe in legends, but that doesn't mean others don't. Does this horn have any special meaning? Aaron asked suspiciously. Most people in Narnia believe that the horn can recall the 4 kings of old Narnia. What the heck? Aaron immediately rolled his eyes at Caspian. Why did you blow it? It would be fine if it recalled 4 ordinary people, but it would be difficult if it recalled 4 powerful wizards. More importantly, the 4 pieces of equipment on my body belonged to those 4 kings if nothing happened. Chapter 427. A badger who knows the current affairs. Resisting the urge to slap Caspian, Aaron gritted his teeth and asked, "One last question." "Trumpkin, Nikabri, I'm back," a voice called from outside the tree hole, interrupting Aaron's inquiry. He quickly stuffed 2 pieces of hard bread into the mouths of Caspian and Nikabri, covered them with a sheet, and then quietly hid behind the door. Crunch! The wooden door opened, and a strange shadow was cast on the floor under the candlelight. Ooh! What's that sound? The visitor scratched his head and muttered to himself. Am I getting old, or is there something wrong with my ears? The next moment, his vision went dark, and he felt a whirlwind. Boom! Aaron threw a bound sack to the ground roughly, and a creature about the size of a dwarf struggled inside it, but to no avail. It's done, Aaron said, clapping his hands and then removing the bread from Caspian and Nikabri's mouths. Why did you arrest him? Nikabri asked, exasperated. Troff is just a badger and poses no threat to you. I just mentioned how hairy he was when I caught him, so it's Brother Pingtu, Aaron said with a meaningful smile. He really didn't threaten me, but what if he tipped off the news? If he calls dozens of people over, I would have no choice but to run away or surrender. Nikabri was speechless. It made sense in a way. What is your purpose? Caspian asked. I have no reason to tell you. Aaron shrugged and continued. The last question, why are those people hunting you down? Caspian was silent for a while, then pursed his lips and said, Because I am a prince. My uncle has been trying to take the throne since my father died. I think I've lived this long because he had no son to inherit the throne. You mean he has a son now? Tonight, his son was born. My teacher told me to flee for my life overnight to this forest and gave me Queen Susan's horn, Caspian said gravely. Will you let me go now? I have to get out of here. My uncle won't stop until I'm dead. I cannot bring war to this forest, the last resting place of the Narnians. I'm afraid it's already too late, Aaron said, pouring a basin of cold water on Caspian's hopes. Trumpkin, the first dwarf who drew his sword against you, was captured by the Temorian general and several soldiers. Not surprisingly, they will report to the king as soon as they return to the castle. Your uncle is clearly an ambitious man, and if he knew there were Narnians in the woods, Guess what he'd do? Lead troops to attack, Caspian said, swallowing hard. Correct answer, Aaron snapped his fingers. He will definitely do that. In fact, my initial idea was very simple. Leave this forest. After all, I can't live in the wilderness forever. But if the residents of the human kingdom are descendants of pirates, then it would be difficult for me, an outsider, to blend in. Not to mention that the king is not a good person. He will probably arrest me and force me to lead the way and invade other places. My uncle will indeed do this, but another possibility is to kill you directly to prevent you from revealing the location of Narnia and threatening his kingdom. You don't need to remind me, Your Highness. Aaron rolled his eyes. In short, I can't go to that castle, but it's not safe to stay in the forest either. A war is about to break out here, a tragic war that could lead to the extermination of one side. I don't want to get involved, so the best option for me is to go the other way and hide away. Speaking of which, Aaron picked up the sack containing the badger. You should have heard our conversation. I am not a bad person, and I tied you up to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings. I can let you go, but only if you keep calm, don't yell, and don't be hostile to me. It's hard for me to be kind to the robbers who break into my house. An unhappy voice came from the sack. Aaron nodded slightly, understanding the sentiment. He didn't say much, just put down the sack. Aaron slowly sheathed his sword, the sound of metal slull, idling against the scabbard echoing clearly. Wait a minute, honored guest. There must be some misunderstanding between us, a voice pleaded. Those who know when to yield always live longer, Aaron replied with a smirk. With a swift motion, a cold light flashed, and the rope binding the sack was cut in two. A badger emerged, taking a deep breath before eyeing Aaron warily. Do you mind if I let them go? The badger asked cautiously. I don't mind. I was going to let them go anyway, Aaron responded indifferently. The badger quickly untied the rope binding Nikabri the dwarf. Nikabri narrowed his eyes, his gaze locking onto his weapon. In a decisive move, he drew his long sword and lunged at Aaron. No, Nikabri, the badger cried out. Stop it! Clang! Aaron effortlessly knocked Nikabri's weapon aside, and in the next moment, the tip of Aaron's sword was at Nikabri's throat. Mr. Dwarf, why do you think I let him release you so easily? Aaron said, exasperated. It's not that I underestimate you, but even 10 of you couldn't get close to me. So, don't make a mockery of my mercy, all right? Nikabri, realizing his helplessness, could only nod in a daze. Who could defeat Aaron? Don't get me wrong, he has a bad temper, especially towards humans, the badger explained, while untying Caspian's rope and trying to calm Aaron. Then he picked up a white horn from the table. So, Prince Caspian, you blew the horn? Yes, Caspian admitted without hesitation. My teacher told me to use it only in an emergency. Okay, I think I understand, the badger said thoughtfully. You are here to save us. Save? Caspian echoed, confused. That's right, save, the badger affirmed. We will gain the freedom and peace we haven't seen for hundreds of years. That's just a myth, Nikabri interjected. No, Nikabri, you know that in Narnia, badgers are responsible for memory. The memory in the back of my mind tells me that Caspian will be our hope. We need a leader now, and no one will unite us more than the one who blew the horn. Maybe, Nikabri sighed, but his uncle will soon lead troops to attack the forest, and we don't have much time. Inform the others to leave early tomorrow morning, the badger instructed. A Temorian may not be able to persuade them, Nikabri sneered. He will have to face the wrath of the Narnians before they agree. Hearing this, the badger calmed down. He doesn't have a choice, and neither do we, at least until the king and queen return. Clap, clap, clap. Aaron clapped his hands. Good luck, goodbye. Wait, Caspian hurriedly called out. You can choose to help us. After winning this battle, I will be the king, and I can give you a legal identity. Heh, Aaron sneered. Wouldn't your conscience hurt if you lied to a 15-year-old kid to go to war? You are very strong, Caspian said with a smile. I am ashamed to say that you are the most powerful person I know, and if I'm not wrong, you should have killed someone. Aaron's eyes narrowed, but he didn't deny it. What do you want to say? Stay and help me once. When it's done, you can live in peace in Narnia. If you don't want to, I'll prepare a boat for you, and you can leave this place. I don't want it, Aaron refused bluntly. I've had enough of wars. I'm not a Narnian, and I'm not a Timorian, so this war means nothing to me. But from my perspective as a bystander, I hope you can win. Good luck. I'm rooting for you." With that, Aaron quickly left the tree hole. Fight? What fight? He had almost died of exhaustion on the battlefield in the last world, and that old bastard Gandalf had wanted to use him as a one-man army. This time might not be as exhausting, given that the enemy was just ordinary humans, without sandworms, vampire bats, trolls, wargs, and other terrible monsters. Plus, he had transformed into a great magister, which was like being reborn. But the problem was choosing a side. Last time, he had stood with the humans against ferocious half-orcs. He didn't have the slightest psychological arrow, and felt the burden of his decision weighing heavily on him. This time, if he had to choose a side, it would be with the Narnians, standing against the humans. This made him feel awkward. He could be ruthless when it came to killing evil aliens, but killing innocent people was different. He couldn't just kill people because he didn't understand what the Tamo people were doing. He had a sense of justice, but it was limited. After walking for a while, he returned to the pit he had dug earlier. Adding some branches to the dying fire, Aaron lay down leisurely. The next day, the first ray of sunshine hit his face. Aaron brushed the dust off his body and prepared to leave the forest, which was about to become a battlefield. As long as he hid far enough away, the war wouldn't affect him. He couldn't return to the ruins. The ancient king and queen of Narnia might come back at any time, and the first thing they would do would be to find their previous equipment. Until he was sure of their strength, it was better to keep his distance. The sun moved slowly overhead, and Aaron stopped by a river. Just as he was about to rest and catch a fish for breakfast, a wooden boat appeared in the distance. The two rowers were wearing armor, holding crossbows, with swords at their waists, dressed as standard soldiers. "Great, just my luck," Aaron muttered under his breath. He had tried to avoid the Tamo soldiers, but here they were. If he had known, he wouldn't have slept last night and would have traveled overnight instead. Now, with the soldiers approaching, Aaron quickly hid behind a boulder before they could spot him. Chapter 428, The King and Queen of Ancient Narnia, The Way to Go Back. Two soldiers stood up on the wooden boat, lifting a dwarf who was about to be thrown overboard. "Trumpkin," Aaron muttered, raising his eyebrows. He hadn't expected to encounter this situation. Should he intervene or not? A debate raged within him. The angel on his shoulder urged, "When the road is uneven, draw your sword to help. This dwarf must be saved." But the lazy voice countered, "It's none of your business. Why offend a kingdom for someone you don't know? Just pretend you didn't see it." Then a darker thought emerged. Since we've encountered it, we should save him. But to be safe, the two soldiers shouldn't be left alive. The angel and the lazy voice looked at each other and agreed. "We have no objection. So be it." Aaron made up his mind. He held his bow in his left hand and drew 2 red arrows from his quiver with his right. He hadn't practiced archery in a while, but shooting 2 arrows simultaneously was still within his skill set. Taking a deep breath, Aaron drew his bow and aimed at the 2 soldiers. Just as he was about to release the arrows, a sudden shout made him almost lose his focus. He quickly retreated behind a boulder, relieved that someone else had decided to act. He saw 2 men and 2 women running over, panting. They looked young. The older pair seemed about 17 or 18, the boy around Aaron's age, and the youngest girl appeared to be 2 or 3 years younger than him. Is this group here to get themselves killed? Aaron thought, noticing that only the youngest girl had a dagger, while the others carried shields. This equipment was hardly a threat to soldiers armed with bows and crossbows. "Put him down," the older girl commanded. The soldiers, surprised, let go of Trumpkin, who fell into the river with a splash. "Who are you?" one soldier asked suspiciously. His Majesty had declared that Prince Caspian was kidnapped by the Narnians, and the castle was under martial law. Civilians were not allowed out. The 2 boys didn't answer. Instead, they exchanged glances and jumped into the river. One swam to save Trumpkin, while the other headed for the boat with a shield on his back. Seeing this, the soldiers picked up their bows and crossbows, aiming at the boys in the water and the girls on the shore. The girls screamed and dodged, while the boys dived deeper. "All right, looks like I have to step in," Aaron sighed. He jumped out from behind the boulder and shot 2 red arrows in quick succession. Both arrows found their marks, hitting the soldiers in the heart. With screams, the soldiers fell into the water. Aaron quickly approached the 2 girls, who were still in shock. He noticed that the younger girl's hand was cut and bleeding. "You," the older girl began, but Aaron ignored her. He took out a bottle of red potion from his pocket and handed it to the younger girl. "Open your mouth. A drop should be enough." The young girl hesitated, looking at Aaron with uncertainty. "Don't be difficult," Aaron said, rolling his eyes. He pinched her mouth open and poured a drop of the potion. Within moments, the wound on her arm healed completely, leaving no scar. "You're welcome," Aaron said, patting her on the head. He expected gratitude, but the girl looked at him with teary eyes. Hey, I saved you anyway," Aaron exclaimed, bewildered by her reaction. "Don't look at me like that, okay? People might think I've done something to you," Lucy said, her voice tinged with frustration. The older girl shook her head slightly, signaling Lucy to keep quiet. After a while, 2 boys came ashore. The older one rescued Chuan Bujin, whose hands were tied, while the younger one dragged the wooden boat back. Seeing this, Aaron drew the long sword from his waist and cut the rope binding Chuan Bujin's hands, much to the astonishment of the 2 boys. "Pft! Cough, cough!" Chuan Bujin tore off the cloth strip from his mouth and coughed up several mouthfuls of river water. He glared at the older girl and roared sullen, "Lie, put him down, you just want this line." "It's enough to say thank you," the older girl smiled inexplicably. "Thank you?" Aaron laughed unkindly. "Given the situation, there's no difference between putting him down and drowning him quickly. You should be more precise with your words, like put him on the boat or don't kill him." "Why did they try to kill you?" the young girl asked. "They're Tamorians. They're all like that," Chuan Bujin said. "Tamor? In Narnia?" The young boy was puzzled. "Where have you been hiding for hundreds of years?" "Don't think about what's there. I think you need to go back quickly," Aaron said as he untied another sword from his waist and handed it to Chuan Bujin. "The Tamorians are ready to attack the forest. Nikabri and Trough are preparing to call the rest of the Narnians." "Thank you." Chuan Bujin took the long sword, then looked at Aaron curiously. "How do you know about us?" "Last night," Aaron shrugged. "After you were captured, Nikabri knocked Prince Caspian unconscious, and then I hit him on the back of the head. After tying them both up, I asked them a few questions in the tree hole. Unfortunately, a badger came back, and I had to put him in a sack in a hurry." Chuan Bujin's eyes widened in astonishment, and the 2 men and 2 women also looked at each other in disbelief. Hitting someone on the back of the head and putting them in a sack doesn't seem very honorable, right? How can he say it so confidently? "But don't worry, they're fine. I've let them go. As for the next thing, I don't want to participate. I can only wish you good luck." "Understood," Chuan Bujin nodded, then looked at the other 4 people. "Thank you too. Although they would have drowned me without your help, at least you genuinely wanted to save me." "We'll talk about that later." The young boy pointed to the sword in Chuan Bujin's hand and said awkwardly but politely, "Can you give it back to me? It's mine." "Yours?" Chuan Bujin froze for a moment, then looked at Aaron. "Sword yours?" "It's not his. It's Edmund's," the older boy said, exasperated. "The other sword in his hand is mine." "And my bow and arrows," added the older girl. "My medicine bottle." Lucy weakly raised her right hand. Rumble! The corner of Aaron's mouth twitched violently, and 1,000 muddy horses galloped through his mind. At this moment, he had some guesses about the identities of these 2 men and 2 women, the kings and queens of ancient Narnia. But what a coincidence! It's one thing to run into these people, but it's somewhat embarrassing to use their equipment right in front of them. But aren't these kings a little too weak? He is completely an ordinary person. He can't feel the slightest wave of magic power. Realizing this, he immediately became more courageous. "Ahem, I found these things in a ruin, but this does not prove that they are yours," Aaron said confidently. "There are 4 statues there, but there is no little girl among them." "It was carved out of me when I grew up," said Lucy, "before we left Narnia." 4 statues. Chuan Bujin seemed to have thought of something and looked at the 2 men and 2 women in disbelief. "No way? It's you? Are you the kings and queens of ancient Narnia?" King Peter, majestic and noble, the older boy stretched out his hand. Chuan Bujin didn't respond. The king of ancient Narnia, suddenly reaching out to him, felt a little unrealistic. Maybe you should omit the second half of the sentence, the older girl suggested. Aaron covered his stomach and laughed, but he barely restrained himself when he saw Peter's face turning serious. Sorry, I've been trained to keep a straight face, no matter how funny something is. But this… Ha ha! If I'm not mistaken, you should be under 20 years old, and it doesn't seem to have anything to do with grandeur. How old are you? Peter asked. 15 years old, younger than you, I suppose, Aaron replied. It shows, Peter said, speechless. Can you return our weapons? They belong to us. Aaron tended to be contemplative. It's not impossible to return them, but there are a few questions you need to answer first. Ask away, Peter said. How did you get here? Aaron inquired. It's a long story, Lucy began. Then make it short, Aaron suggested. While we were waiting for the train, Lucy started. Wait, you said you were waiting for the train? Aaron's eyes widened slightly, as if he understood something. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. I see. No wonder you are still teenagers after hundreds of years. This trip is really interesting. These 4 people should be the same as him, but they must come from another human world or a parallel world. After Caspian blew the horn, a mysterious force pulled them back. You know about trains? Peter looked at Aaron in surprise. Don't you? That's what you think. Aaron sighed slightly and began to fabricate a story. I fell asleep on the train, and when I woke up, I arrived at this inexplicable place. I came several days earlier than you. It is not easy for a person to survive alone in the wilderness. The 4 of them looked at each other, unsure of what to say. At least they had a way back, but this guy had actually lived alone in the forest for several days. If the professor's wardrobe is still there, you can go back through it, Lucy said. What? Are you serious? Aaron asked, his eyes widening in surprise. We came to Narnia a year ago through the wardrobe, but it seems that hundreds of years have passed since we left Narnia, Lucy explained. Aaron felt a surge of happiness at that moment. He had been trying to avoid the war between Narnia and the Tamori, but now someone was telling him there was a way to return to the human world. What could be more surprising than this? Chapter 429, A Gunshot, exactly 1 bullet left. Take me there, and I will return your equipment immediately, Aaron demanded. Okay, Peter agreed, but we're not sure if that passage is still there. It doesn't matter, just take me there, Aaron insisted. He promptly returned the bow and arrow to Susan and handed the long sword back to Peter. As for the medicine bottle, he intended to keep it secretly, considering it more precious than Phoenix's tears. Where's my medicine bottle? Lucy reminded him meaningfully. I hate this kind of good memory, Aaron replied with a mischievous smile. You haven't eaten yet. How about I treat you to a good meal? A large amount to keep you full, and the bottle of potion will. Lucy smiled innocently. Although I look only 12 or 13 years old, I was once the Queen of Narnia. I was older than you before I left Narnia. Okay. Aaron sighed and reluctantly returned the red medicine bottle. Chumpkin paused for a moment, then handed the sword in his hand to Edmund. Here, Your Majesty. What happened to Narnia while we were away? Peter asked. Let's talk while walking, Chumpkin said in a deep voice, then gestured for the 5 of them to board the boat. Peter took the initiative to paddle, guiding them into a canyon along the river. What's your name? Edmund asked. Gaius, Aaron Gaius. In this world, I am just a nobody, far less famous than you 4 kings. They're so quiet, Lucy observed, looking at the trees on both sides of the canyon. They are trees. What do you expect from them? Chumpkin said lightly. They used to dance. The Telmarines came shortly after you left. The survivors all hid in the woods. As for the trees, they buried themselves deeply, and no one has heard from them since. I don't understand, Lucy said sadly. How could Aslan let this happen? Aslan? He left us when you left us. So, Aaron swallowed hard, isn't that lion a legend? Of course not, Lucy said seriously. We fought side by side with him. Can you tell me how strong he is? Aaron asked. If there was no accident, Aslan might be a creature in this world that could threaten him. It would be good to know more information. I can't say that, Lucy scratched her head. When you see him, you will feel that he is trustworthy and respectable. When the White Witch ruled Narnia, the whole world was covered with ice and snow, but when he came back, winter turned into spring. The White Witch petrified many people who resisted her. Aslan only had to breathe on them, and they recovered. In the final battle, his roar made us, who were in decline, overwhelm the enemy army. Aaron thought to himself after the appraisal, at least the level of a holy magister, an existence I can't afford to mess with. And Aslan must still be alive. At that level, lifespan can no longer restrain him. He won't die by chance in these hundreds of years. However, Aslan seemed to be on the side of justice. As long as he didn't do anything that would endanger the world, he shouldn't offend him. "We didn't intend to leave," Peter said apologetically. "That doesn't make much difference, does it?" Chumpkin replied. "Take us to the Narnians and it will be over." "Wait, did you agree to take me home?" Aaron said with an unnatural expression. "We do what we say," Lucy shrugged. The boat docked on the shore, and Chumpkin dropped the anchor, kicking it hard twice to bury it in the ground. Aaron followed Peter, Edmund, and Susan to pull the wooden boat to the shore. Lucy saw a black bear not far away and approached it with interest. In her perception, the residents of Narnia were still as hospitable as they were hundreds of years ago. "Hello there," she greeted. "Roar." The black bear let out a low growl, then stood up. "It's okay. We are your friends," Lucy said reassuringly. "Is there something wrong with your sister's brain?" Aaron gasped. "I thought she was quite reliable, but now it seems to be my illusion." "Don't move, Your Majesty," Chumpkin said hastily, and Lucy subconsciously stood where she was. At this moment, the sound of footsteps reached her ears, and Susan turned her head to see a black bear rushing towards her. Terrified, she immediately ran back. Susan quickly raised her bow, nocked an arrow, and warned, "Stay away from her." The black bear was undeterred. Lucy fell to the ground, screaming in panic as she faced the bear's bloody maw. "Shoot the arrow quickly, Susan." Edmund and Peter shouted as they rushed towards the bear with their swords drawn. They were still 30 meters away and unsure if they could reach in time. Boom! Time seemed to stand still. Peter and Edmund, who were running wildly, stopped in their tracks. Susan lowered her bow in a daze, Chumpkin sat on the ground dumbfounded, and Lucy's screams abruptly ceased. The black bear cried out in pain and collapsed. A transparent hole pierced its head from the forehead to the back of the skull, blood pouring out and staining the ground red. But no one cared about the bear. All eyes turned to Aaron, a mix of astonishment and tension in their gazes. Aaron pretended to blow the smoke from the muzzle of his revolver. "What are you all staring at me for? Although I know I'm pretty handsome, it's embarrassing to have so many eyes on me." You actually have a gun?" Edmund stammered. Aaron spread his hands nonchalantly and smiled meaningfully. "Why do you think I returned your weapons so willingly? It's a little inappropriate to say this, but I wouldn't dare venture outside without a weapon in a strange and dangerous place." "But this is too unfair," Susan said, exasperated. "We only have bows and arrows, and the best we have are crossbows. And you have a firearm? Blame me?" Aaron shrugged. "What is your identity in the human world?" Peter asked solemnly. There were still many places in their world where wars were ongoing. Now, suddenly, a young man with a gun appeared, killing a black bear with a single shot between the eyes. This marksmanship was too precise to ignore. Was he an officer's son, a prince or noble, or a trained assassin? Don't get me wrong, I have no special status. I'm just an ordinary person." "Ordinary people don't have guns, and they certainly don't have that kind of marksmanship," Peter said seriously. "Such precision requires strict training. I admire your thinking, but there are geniuses in this world, and I happen to be one. I excelled at everything from childhood to college, and shooting is no exception." "Genius?" Peter looked at him thoughtfully, still suspicious. "Can you tell me how you got your gun?" "It's ancestral," Aaron responded without hesitation. "Please, be serious." Edmund's mouth twitched slightly. "We don't know much about firearms, but this is the first time I've seen such a beautiful and exquisite gun. It's far superior to the guns of the railway station guards. Good eye. This gun is black and matte, with an ergonomic grip. It's 30 centimeters long, with a 15-centimeter barrel, and weighs 500 grams. The hammer is exposed, and it has intricate carvings. I named it Moo." "Wait, no one asked for that much detail," Susan interrupted. We just want to know where you got such a beautiful gun. Rest assured, no matter your identity, we'll take you back." "But this gun really is ancestral," Aaron insisted. "Don't be ridiculous," Peter said. "Your gun is much more advanced than ordinary firearms. The timeline doesn't match at all." Aaron sighed tiredly. "An elder in my family was very old and highly skilled. He had a talent far beyond ordinary people in designing weapons. This is one of his few masterpieces. He passed the gun on to the youngest in the family, me. Now that he's no longer alive, are you satisfied?" The group exchanged glances, realizing they might have inadvertently touched on a sensitive subject. "I'm sorry," Peter said softly. "We didn't mean it," Lucy said guiltily. "Sorry," Peter apologized sincerely. "Huh," Aaron snorted, clearly dissatisfied. What he had said was absolutely the truth. Alger was indeed dead, and Aaron had indeed been the one to pass him the gun. As for how these people understood it, he didn't care. "Your luck is really enviable," Edmund said emotionally. "We didn't have much equipment when we first came to Narnia. Can I see your gun? I've never touched one so big." "Do you think that's possible?" Aaron sneered. "This gun is what I need to survive in this world." "Okay, so how many bullets do you have?" Edmund asked. Aaron pushed the wheel out and pretended to eject the bullets one by one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 bullets, just enough. The group stared at him, puzzled. What did he mean by just enough? Were these 5 bullets meant for the 5 of them? "Are you sure it's just 5 bullets?" Peter asked suspiciously. "Of course," Aaron replied, giving him a blank look. "I carry a gun for self-defense, not for war. Why would I need so many bullets?" It's true," Peter muttered, trying to convince himself. "Why didn't he stop?" Susan stepped forward, looking at the dead black bear with a hint of puzzlement in her eyes. "Why did he stop?" "It's a bear," Aaron replied. "He walked up to lunch, and you expect him to pretend he didn't see anything?" "No, I mean he might be a Narnian. Narnians are intelligent, talkative, and usually don't attack humans easily." "With all due respect, I didn't see any wisdom in him. He seemed more like a wild bear," Aaron countered. "I don't think he could talk either," Peter chimed in. Chuan Bujin's expression was complicated, and his voice was devoid of any emotion. "Being treated as a stupid animal for too long, you become stupid too. You will find Narnia wilder than ever." Chapter 430, Into the Big Brother's Sight, Prince Caspian's Plan. Peter led the way, guiding the group through the tangled woods until they reached a dead end. Staring at the road ahead, blocked by stones, Aaron couldn't help but mutter under his breath, "It turns out it's not just my sister who's unreliable. My brother is the same." "I'm not lost," Peter insisted. "Then please explain the wall in front of us," Aaron retorted, rolling his eyes. "Don't tell me you have a map of Narnia from hundreds of years ago in your head." "It was a year ago," Peter said, trying to sound confident. But under Aaron's skeptical gaze, he quickly admitted, "Okay, it was hundreds of years ago, but the approximate location must be correct. You parted from Caspian at Shiverwood, and the quickest way to get there is across the Rosh River." I don't know the names of these places. I only know this is definitely not the Rosh River. Also, I must remind you that I want to go home, not go to war with you. Didn't you agree to take me back through the wardrobe? Are you sure you didn't take me in the opposite direction?" Peter hesitated for a moment before admitting, "We are short on time now, and the battles are ongoing." "You mean I still have to wait until you finish this battle?" Aaron asked, exasperated. Peter nodded awkwardly, not denying it. Aaron sighed deeply, trying to suppress his irritation. "King Peter, majestic and sublime, you actually tricked a 15-year-old boy. Doesn't your conscience ache?" The undisguised sarcasm made Peter's face flush slightly. "I said I would take you there, but I didn't say when." "Playing a rogue," Aaron snorted coldly. "Forget it. Just tell me the right direction, and we'll part ways." Peter was momentarily speechless. After a few seconds of silence, he pointed in a direction. "Go straight ahead. If nothing unexpected happens." "If nothing else, you'll see a magnificent castle," Chumpkin interjected. "The Temorians' castle is in that direction." Aaron slapped his forehead. "Does that mean the way home is in enemy-occupied territory?" "It's just possible," Chumpkin continued, adding salt to the wound. "I'm sure the Temorians haven't found any secret passages there." "Actually, even if there are no Temorians, the opening time of the channel is still uncertain. We also looked for it during our rule of Narnia, but couldn't find it. Then it appeared when we weren't looking for it, Susan said calmly, pouring cold water on Aaron's hopes. I'm unlucky enough, Aaron said, his voice tinged with grief. I just want to find a place of refuge. Why is it so difficult? After Narnia regains peace, you can definitely go home, Lucy said seriously. Susan's horn called us back to save Narnia. I think we'll go back to school after completing this task. Thank you for the comfort, Aaron replied weakly. But then, as if struck by a thought, he asked, You just said, to complete the task? Yes, is there a problem? Lucy asked. Aaron didn't answer immediately. Instead, he silently opened his task panel in his mind. Save Narnia. 1,000 magic points are rewarded for completing the task, and there is no penalty for failing the task. Do you accept it? As expected, Aaron decisively chose to accept. This task wasn't difficult for him, but it was very complicated. There were countless ways to save Narnia. The easiest and most efficient way was to cast magic on the Temorian's castle. With his current level of magic power, he could definitely obliterate that castle. Without enemies, Narnia would naturally be safe. But this kind of thinking was unrealistic. After all, he wasn't the kind of person who would do whatever it takes to achieve his goals. Massacring a city was out of the question. Aaron thought for a while, glanced at the 2 men and 2 women, and sighed deeply. We have the same goal now. Let's find Caspian first. Let's take it one step at a time, Peter agreed, leading the way once more. Peter shrugged. I still remember a shorter road. Aaron hesitated for a moment, then turned to look at Trumpkin. Compared to the inexplicably confident Peter, he felt that the local guide was more reliable. Hello, what do you mean? Peter asked, a bit defensively. Obviously, Peter, laughed Susan. I also think we should have listened to him in the first place. Trumpkin, do you know the correct route? There are shoals near Belluna. We can dive there, Trumpkin suggested. Aaron's mouth twitched. Actually, King Peter won't always be unreliable, will he? Come with me. Peter puffed up his chest. At least the path I choose doesn't require diving. Everyone exchanged glances and silently followed Peter. After walking for a while, they reached a cliff tens of meters high. Rivers erode the land over time, cutting downward, Susan remarked. Shut up, Peter snapped. Is there a way to go down? Edmund asked, looking at Trumpkin. Yes, fall down, Trumpkin replied dryly. At least we didn't get lost. The trembling forest is on the other side. Peter said stubbornly. I can climb down, Aaron offered, raising his hand helplessly. I've learned rock climbing before, and I climbed a cliff higher than this a few days ago. But the problem is, I can't take people with me, let alone a little girl in the team. Or... Before he finished speaking, Aaron keenly felt a gaze fall on him, though it wasn't hostile. Aslan, Lucy suddenly pointed to the other side in surprise. Did you see him? He's right there. But when everyone looked in the direction she pointed, they saw nothing. Aslan? Aaron couldn't help swallowing. Is this considered being in the eyes of the boss? You still see him now? Trumpkin asked suspiciously. I'm not crazy. He was there just now, and he asked us to go with him. How? Aaron smiled far-fetchedly. I don't doubt that you saw him, but it's a bit difficult to walk with him. We can't even reach the opposite side. That's it, Trumpkin said lightly. I don't intend to follow some non-existent guy to jump off the cliff. I didn't trust Lucy last time, and I turned out to be a fool, Edmund put in. Peter pursed his lips, looked at the opposite side, and then focused on his sister. Why can't I see him? Maybe you didn't pay attention. Maybe he doesn't want to see you at all, Aaron thought silently. Sorry, Lulu. Peter shook his head slowly and decided to go diving with Trumpkin to Belluna. Susan and Edmund also followed. Let's go. Aaron patted Lucy on the shoulder. You've been a queen for a while anyway. You can't cry just because they don't believe you. Lucy took a deep look at the place where Aslan had just appeared, then turned and left helplessly. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Caspian was surrounded by Narnians. People on horses, cows, goat people, dwarves, and even mice were attacking him one after another. Kill him. Traitor. Fraud. Caspian's heart went cold as he looked at these mythical creatures burning with anger. He still wanted to seek their help, but now it seemed it was a blessing not to be killed by them. This horn only proves that they stole something from us again, Knickerbrick said indifferently. I didn't steal anything, Caspian protested. Didn't steal anything? A centaur said angrily. Would you like to make a list of the Telmarine's plunder? Our home, our land, our liberty, our life. They stole Narnia. The Narnians spoke one after another, recounting the atrocities of the Telmarines. Caspian glanced around. You want me to be responsible for the crimes committed by my people? Responsible and punished, Nikabrick said. You speak with depth, dwarf, a mouse said, drawing its sword and walking up to him. Perhaps you forgot that your clan fought side by side with the White Witch. I'm glad to do it again, Nikabrick flicked the mouse's sword away, as long as I can get rid of these savages. It's a good thing you can't bring her back, said the badger. Or do you want the child to fight Aslan? Some of you may have. The badgers remember it well, though it may be forgotten by others. Narnia will only prosper when a human is king. As soon as the words were spoken, Nikabuli couldn't contain himself any longer. He is a Temorian. How can he be our king? Others quickly voiced their objections, and a chorus of curses followed. I can help you, Caspian interjected suddenly, causing the cursing to subside a little. Beyond this forest, I am a prince, and the throne of Tamar is rightfully mine. Help me reclaim it, and I will ensure we all share in the peace. The time is indeed ripe, the centaur leader declared, standing up. He was highly respected among the Narnians, and his words brought a hush over the crowd. I read the skies, just as the badger keeps our memories. The stars Tawa and Alambi are aligned, and now a son of man has come to restore our freedom. Is it possible? Do you really believe there will be peace? Caspian asked, looking up at a talking squirrel perched in a tree. A forced smile played on his lips. 2 days ago, I didn't believe in talking animals, dwarves, or centaurs. But now, you see, we Temorians are here in unexpected numbers. With that, Caspian produced the horn. Whether the horn is magical or not, it has brought us together. If we work together, we have a chance to reclaim what is ours. Swish! The centaurs drew their long swords and held them aloft. If you lead us, then my son and I will follow you like loyal dogs and horses, one centaur pledged. The other Narnians also raised their arms in solidarity. We serve you too, with all our hearts, said a mouse, bowing to Caspian. Miraz's army is not far from us, your majesty, the badger reminded. We must find soldiers and weapons quickly if we are to face them, Caspian said earnestly. I believe they will be here soon. Chapter 431, A Different Field Life. Lucy's dream in Belluna. Dozens of workers were busy cutting down trees, and all the planed wood was being sent to an unfinished bridge. The bridge was half completed and steadily extending towards the opposite bank. A row of catapults was neatly placed nearby, and several military camps were stationed not far away, filled with heavily armed soldiers and groups of war horses. Aaron and his companions hid in the woods, their worry growing as they observed the scene. Still thinking of diving? Aaron shook his head at Chuanbujin. We'd be shot to death by random arrows before we even made it halfway. The whole mission would be over. I didn't expect them to move so fast, Chuanbujin said solemnly. Miraz must have mobilized all the manpower he could. Besides killing Caspian, he wants to completely destroy Narnia. It's clear that once the bridge is completed, Miraz's soldiers will launch an official attack, Aaron sighed. Let's head back. I'll go down the cliff first and then find a way to get you all down. That's our only option for now, Peter agreed. The group returned to the cliff. Aaron took a deep breath, set aside his cloak and dry food bag, but kept his gun with him. Are you sure it's safe? Susan asked, concerned. Don't worry, I'll show you what real skill looks like, Aaron replied nonchalantly. With his current physical fitness, he wouldn't be injured jumping off a cliff only tens of meters high, especially with a river below to cushion his fall. Aaron took a deep breath and walked to the edge of the cliff. Just as he was about to find a suitable starting point, he suddenly slipped and fell. Boom! The sound of his landing echoed, and the others rushed forward in shock. It's okay, don't worry, Aaron called out, dusting himself off. He had landed on a flat boulder below, which had caught him steadily. I don't think we need to climb rocks. There's a path here, Aaron pointed out. Below the boulder was a winding path that led to the bottom of the cliff. I knew Aslan wouldn't let us jump off a cliff, Lucy said happily. He wanted us to take this path. He must have been on the other side of this boulder at that time. The group exchanged glances but chose not to discuss it further. They carefully descended to the bottom of the cliff, followed the river, and found a relatively safe road. With difficulty, they climbed up to the trembling forest on the other side of the cliff. By this time, dusk was falling. Peter lit a fire and let everyone rest where they were. Aaron took out his ration bag and retrieved the last of his food. He had to stretch 3 days' worth of food over 5 days, and only he knew how tough it had been. Canned fresh meat, ham and cheese sandwiches, and the bottle isn't filled with cocktails. The others watched as Aaron took out food wrapped in tinfoil, their mouths twitching involuntarily. With such a rich meal, was he here for camping or vacation? "Help yourselves, you can eat too," Aaron said solemnly, offering them a few wild fruits from his bag. "I found these in the ruins of Cair Paravel's palace. They may not taste great, but they're nutritious. We should be grateful, but you?" Peter looked at the wild fruit in his hand and then at the calorie-rich food in Aaron's hand, feeling a sense of loss. "Don't worry about it. Let's make do with what we have," Susan interrupted. "It's better to have some energy than none." Peter nodded, speechless, and they all gnawed on the wild fruits. 10 minutes later, Aaron burped in satisfaction. He spread a pile of leaves on the ground, laid his cloak over them, and wrapped a relatively regular stone in the cloak to use as a pillow. Peter used a dry food bag as a pillow and lay comfortably on the temporary bed. "Good night, everyone," he said. Susan, Edmund, and Lucy all turned their eyes to Peter. Even in the wild, he managed to be comfortable. The 3 younger siblings were in close contact with the earth, and they couldn't help but feel a bit envious. "Peter, don't you feel Guy, Letty as the big brother?" Susan asked, her tone half joking. I don't think we're too weak to endure a little discomfort." Peter laughed. The 3 of them exchanged glances and then reluctantly lay down on the grass around the fire. Early the next morning, Lucy opened her eyes and turned to her sister. "Susan, wake up," she whispered. "No problem, Lulu. You can do whatever you want," Susan mumbled, still half asleep, and then turned over to continue sleeping. "It seems your sister needs more rest," Aaron said with a smile. "I didn't expect you to be the first to wake up." "When did you wake up?" Lucy asked, curiosity evident in her eyes. 6 o'clock. My body clock wakes me up at this time every day," Aaron replied. Lucy nodded slightly, her curiosity growing. "Who are you, really?" "Don't you know? Just an ordinary 15-year-old boy," Aaron said. Lucy froze for a moment, then sneered. "You're not ordinary. Aslan told me so. I just had a dream about him." Aaron's heart skipped a beat, but he kept his composure. "What did he say about me?" "He said you are very capable and can be trusted, but you're a little too shrewd." "That's a fair assessment," Aaron thought to himself, feeling certain that Aslan was still alive and watching their every move. "What else did he say?" "He also said to follow me, and I'll take you to see him," Lucy said, pulling Aaron into the depths of the woods. The 2 walked through the grass and bushes along a path for 20 minutes, but they didn't see the lion. "He was here in my dream," Lucy said, puzzled. "Dreams and reality can differ," Aaron said, trying to be patient. "I believe in his existence, and I trust you, but you can't guarantee he'll be in the same place he showed you in the dream." Lucy was about to respond when a low roar came from not far away. "Aslan!" Lucy exclaimed, overjoyed. "Wait," Aaron cautioned. "It may not be Aslan. There are many wild animals in the forest. Remember the black bear?" Lucy calmed down and cautiously poked her head out. She saw a man-ox patrolling with a huge axe and quickly retracted her head in fear. "Is that a man-ox?" Aaron asked, intrigued. "Although smaller than a giant monster, its combat power should be comparable." "Shh!" Lucy gestured for silence. "He's an enemy. Hundreds of years ago, his kind worked for the White Witch." "That was hundreds of years ago," Aaron said, waving his hand dismissively. "Narnia can't afford internal conflicts now. We need to unite against external threats." "You mean they might be allies now?" Lucy began, but before she could finish, Peter rushed past them. "Wait, Peter," Lucy called out urgently. Peter paused, confused. But before he could react, Caspian rushed out from the side and attacked Peter without a word. Their swords clashed, the sound of metal ringing through the air. Both were evenly matched, each thinking the other was an enemy, and neither held back. Peter's swordsmanship was slightly superior, and he soon disarmed Caspian. However, When he tried to strike again, his sword got stuck in a tree. Caspian quickly kicked Peter away and grabbed the sword, trying to pull it free. Peter got up, picked up a brick, and was about to hit Caspian on the back of the head. "Don't!" Lucy jumped out from behind the grass. "Don't hit him!" The two stopped their fight, looking at Lucy in surprise. As the Narnians surrounded them, Aaron shook his head regretfully. "It's a pity," he said. "Although their swordsmanship is a bit inferior, it's still quite interesting to fight. You have a small medicine bottle. It's not too late to save them when both sides are hurting." "Stop gloating," Lucy snapped, glaring at him with dissatisfaction. Susan, Edmund, and Trumpkin also rushed over, looking at the two people surrounded by Narnians, but they didn't understand why. Peter, however, had already realized that there seemed to be only one Telmarine who could treat the Narnians friendly. "Prince Caspian?" Peter asked. "Yes, who are you?" Caspian replied. "King Peter, I believe it was you," sounded the horn. "Yes, but I thought you would be older," Caspian said, a bit disappointed. He knew the legends of these four kings, but hadn't expected to summon the younger versions instead of the grown-up ones. Peter's face froze slightly. "If you want, we can come back a few years later." No, it's okay. It's just that you're not what I expected." "This is called life's impermanence," Aaron interjected meaningfully. "From a prince to a fugitive overnight, you should understand this." "Of course I understand," Caspian replied, somewhat speechless. "But why are you back? Weren't you going to stay away from the war?" Aaron let out a deep sigh. "The justice and kindness in my heart do not allow me to be a deserter. Now that I'm here, I have to try. I would feel guilty if I ignored it." Caspian gave him a serious look. "You don't need to get involved. It seems you are much nobler than I thought, and you are also more responsible." "Thank you for the compliment. I can barely accept your evaluation," Aaron said with a smirk. The others couldn't help but tremble when they heard this. They knew Aaron well enough to understand that, initially, all he wanted was to go home. His involvement was out of necessity, not a sense of justice and responsibility, yet he spoke so confidently. Chapter 432, Disagreements of Opinion, Act First. "We look forward to your return, my lord," a mouse said, jumping up to Peter and bowing respectfully. "We serve you wholeheartedly." "God, he's so cute," Lucy couldn't help but exclaim. "Who said that?" The mouse drew his sword angrily, clearly offended by the word cute. "I'm sorry," Lucy apologized, embarrassed. When the mouse saw that it was the Queen of Ancient Narnia, his attitude changed immediately. He bowed politely and said, "Your Majesty, please listen to me. I believe brave, polite, or chivalrous would be more appropriate for a Narnian knight." "At least we know that some of you are good at swordsmanship," Peter said half-jokingly. "Yes, I have recently made better use of my skills to obtain weapons for your army." "Very well, because we need every sword," Peter replied. "Then you may want yours back," said Caspian, handing Peter's sword back to him. "Are those the weapons you were talking about?" Aaron asked, pointing to a centaur carrying large bags of iron swords on both sides. "That's it," the mouse said proudly. "Just last night, I and a few brothers secretly took enough weapons and armor from the Tamo people to equip 2 legions. We also sent a greeting, by the way." "2 legions?" Aaron frowned slightly. "Is that all?" "Thousands of sets of equipment are enough for us to use," the mouse replied. "Yeah," Aaron said with a peaceful smile. If Miraz could think a little, he'd be able to roughly count the Narnians. No, the number of Narnian warriors, to be exact. Hearing this, the mouse turned pale in shock. Sorry, I really didn't consider this, Your Majesty." "It doesn't matter," Peter said, shaking his head lightly to comfort him. "Whether they know our number or not, they will overwhelm the border, and this tough battle will eventually be fought. Besides, we have more than 2 legions." Armed with weapons, Narnia's army barely took shape. Caspian led the group to a bunker, which served as a temporary fortification. The men and horses raised their long swords and lined up in 2 rows, forming a guard of honor to welcome the king and queen. The rest followed closely behind. The Narnians worked non-stop, remelting the stolen standard weapons and armor into equipment that fit their own size to prepare for the next war. "It may not be what it used to be here, but it's all right for defense," said Caspian. "Not bad. How do you know about such a place?" Aaron asked curiously. "This is not a forest. There is nothing you can't come to. My teacher was very obsessed with Narnian culture and found this ruin by chance. Peter, you might want to see this, Susan said, pointing to the wall. Peter walked over, picked up a torch, and saw the murals on the wall by the light of the fire. These murals recorded their stories, from their arrival in Narnia to the battle on the lions, and finally to the throne at Cair Paravel Palace. Is this Aslan? Aaron pointed to the lion on the wall. It looks like an ordinary lion. Bigger, said Lucy. We're a year older, and he's grown a lot too. What is this place? Asked Susan, looking at Caspian. You don't know? Caspian asked in surprise. After thinking about it, he realized it was normal. After all, hundreds of years had passed, and this bunker might have been built after they left Narnia. He led the way with a torch, passed through a tunnel, and stopped in a hall. The torch stretched out to the groove on the wall, and the flame ignited the lamp oil, lighting up the whole hall. Only then did they clearly see the environment of the hall. There was no magnificent decoration. There was a broken stone platform in the center and a mural of a male lion on the front. Lucy stroked the stone platform, as if she understood something. She turned to look at the others. He must know all this. Aslan? Aaron thought thoughtfully. He's not going to help us, is he? The same thing won't happen a second time, Lucy murmured, with a hint of disappointment in her tone. That's not necessarily the case, Aaron shrugged. There is a saying in the Bible, what has been will be again, what has been done will be done again, Peter quoted. You understand this? Susan asked, surprised. I don't know much about the Bible, but my ancestors believed in it. They generally agreed with wise words, Peter replied, gazing thoughtfully at the mural of the lion. After a few moments, he added, I think everything depends on ourselves. Outside, a half-goat on guard spotted the patrolling Tanmo soldiers and quickly reported the situation to the kings. Peter summoned representatives of the various races of Narnia to the main hall. Satyrs, centaurs, bulls, dwarves, and talking animals gathered around the steps for an impromptu meeting. Soon, Miraz's army and weapons will arrive, which means they won't be able to defend their castle, Peter announced. What are you going to do, sire? Asked the mouse. It's better to strike first, Aaron suggested, snapping his fingers. I support this. That's ridiculous. No one has ever taken that castle, Caspian objected hastily. There's a first time for everything, Peter countered. They won't expect it, Chumpkin agreed. We can surprise them. But we have an advantage here, Susan interjected, supporting Caspian. As long as we are well prepared, we might be able to hold our ground. Maybe? Aaron scoffed. That's a good word, but can we hold it once, twice, 3 times? The number of Tanmo soldiers is several times that of the Narnians, and they have a kingdom as a supply station. They can afford to lose many times, but we can't afford to lose even once. Of course, this is just my personal opinion. Take it as you will. I appreciate all you do, Peter said to Caspian, but this is not a bunker. It's a tomb. Yes, Edmund agreed. If they're clever, the Tanmorians can trap us until we starve. We can store nuts, a squirrel suggested without thinking. You can also throw Tanmorians, the mouse said, exasperated. Your Majesty, I want you to know that I am on your side. Shut up, you two cuties, Aaron rolled his eyes. Don't say such ridiculous things. Who are you calling cute? The mouse immediately drew his sword and pointed it at Aaron menacingly. Aaron raised his eyebrows, moved slowly, and stood behind Lucy. The mouse's breath quickened. Don't hide behind our queen if you can. Stand up and challenge me one-on-one. Forget it, Reepicheep, Badger shook his head. You can't beat him. He subdued Nicobrick with 2 moves. Trough, I'm not a dwarf, Nicobrick said disdainfully. But I'm about the same as him. You are not his opponent in a one-on-one match. Peter turned to the leader of the centaurs. If I help you sneak in, can your people handle the guards? We swear to complete the task, Your Majesty, the centaur leader vowed. Generally, people who say such things are prepared to die, Aaron remarked, his tone somber. Is it a narrow escape? The centaur leader slowly lowered his head, acknowledging Aaron's words. That's exactly what I'm worried about, Lucy said softly. It seems like we have only 2 choices, die here or die there. You may not have heard clearly, Lulu, Peter said patiently. We have no other choice. Staying here is a dead end. No, your sister is smarter than you, Aaron interjected meaningfully. We still have a third option. Retreat strategically. It is the best policy to go. I have thought about this, but I believe most Narnians are unwilling to leave. They have been hiding for hundreds of years. Moreover, Miraz won't give up until he achieves certain results. At the very least, he needs to clear the way for his son. That means the premise of running away is to hand over Caspian. Caspian remained silent. Even so, Miraz may not let the Narnians live, Trumpkin said gravely. When I was captured, he promised the elders of the Tonmo Council that he would kill all Narnians to fulfill the last wish of their ancestors. For this he doesn't mind. Peter was adamant about cutting down entire forests. I mean, we should retreat first. We can wait for Aslan, Lucy said anxiously. He knows everything, and he will definitely show up. We've waited long enough for him, hundreds of years. Now we have to assume the responsibility of kings, Peter said seriously, then led the others to formulate a battle plan. Peter still doesn't want to believe me, Lucy said, her eyes red with frustration. But I really saw Aslan and dreamed about him. I believe you. I believe in you more than anyone else, Aaron said earnestly. Thank you. Lucy felt a bit more at ease. By the way, Aslan also asked me to remind you, don't go too far. Aaron thought to himself, is this a reminder? This is clearly a warning, right? A warning from the suspected holy magician. Forcing a smile, he said, okay, I received his warning. Now find a place to sleep well first. No, I'm the Queen of Narnia, and I'll be involved in the battle plan. Aaron couldn't help but think that the children shouldn't be involved in such serious matters, but he maintained a solemn expression. You have a more important task. Sleep and try to find Aslan's hideout in your dream. But didn't we try this morning? Lucy asked. Think of it as a last resort. If it fails, Aslan is our last hope. As for Peter and the others, I will do my best to take care of them. Lucy felt a strong sense of mission, nodded vigorously, and found a place to lie down and count sheep. As Aaron walked out of the temporary conference room, he touched his pocket with a guilty conscience. Inside was a bottle of red potion. It's really hard to deceive children nowadays, he muttered to himself. Chapter 433, Different Signals. The night attack plan begins. At night, let the griffin drop me off at the high tower first, Edmund instructed, pulling a flashlight from his bag and demonstrating its flickering light. This will be very noticeable in the dark, and I'll use it to send signals. Edmund will send out 2 signals tonight, Peter explained, holding up 2 fingers. The first signal will indicate that our forces should eliminate the guards outside the castle quietly. Susan, Aaron, Caspian, and I will then sneak in with a small group. We'll split up. The rats are hard to spot and will be responsible for lowering the drawbridge. Your Majesty, Reepicheep interjected hesitantly. While we can sneak in easily, we can't operate those gear switches. After sneaking in, neutralize as many guards as possible. Someone will assist you then, Peter reassured. Understood, Your Majesty, Reepicheep replied. Aaron, you and Caspian will open the gates. The number of people the griffins can transport is limited, so we'll try to help you eliminate the patrolling guards, but you must act quickly, Peter continued. Aaron and Caspian exchanged glances and nodded slowly. Susan and I will deal with Miraz. Once the king is taken care of, they will be leaderless. Edmund will stop signaling once we've completed our respective missions. After that, I'll notify Edmund to send the second signal. When the troops outside the castle see the second signal, they will begin the formal attack, Peter concluded. The leader of the centaurs nodded seriously. Your Majesty, that's the plan. Go now, prepare well, and wait for nightfall, Peter instructed. Wait, I have a small concern. Aaron raised his right hand, drawing everyone's attention. Go ahead, Peter said calmly, confident in his plan. First, do you have enough power in that flashlight? If it runs out at a critical moment, not only will the plan fail, but escaping unscathed will also be a problem, Aaron pointed out. Peter turned to Edmund. Is it all right? The flashlight is fine, and the batteries are all newly bought, Edmund confirmed. Secondly, we need a signal to retreat, Aaron continued. I'm not trying to dampen the mood, but if the plan goes wrong, if you don't see a second signal before dawn, the operation will be cancelled, Peter interrupted. Any questions? I think you misunderstood. The retreat signal I mentioned isn't just for the army, but for all of us, Aaron clarified earnestly. You should know what force majeure is, right? The castle is heavily guarded, and anything could happen. Your plans are closely linked, so there can be no mistakes. Peter pondered for a moment. Are you being too pessimistic? Don't think about victory. Think about defeat first. Prudence is my code of conduct, especially when it concerns family and life. I suggest planning the retreat before the operation, so if it fails, we won't suffer too much loss, Aaron advised. Everyone exchanged glances, realizing the wisdom in Aaron's words despite their initial discomfort. I agree with Aaron, Susan said. Let the Griffin stand by at high altitude, ready to adapt to the situation, just in case. As for the signal for a full retreat, Peter thought for a moment, then turned to Aaron. What are you looking at me for? I'm not interested in men, Aaron quipped. Lend me your gun, Peter said, exasperated. If everything goes well, Edmund's flashlight will suffice. But if the situation becomes complicated, we might not have time to see his signal. Firearms haven't been invented in Narnia, and there's no better signal than the sound of a gun. 3 gunshots will mean retreat. Hearing this, the corner of Aaron's mouth twitched violently. Aaron took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. All right, let's stick to the original plan. Caspian, you go find your teacher. I'll handle the door. Peter, Susan, you two stay alert and be ready to assist wherever needed. Peter nodded, gripping the pistol tightly. Got it. Let's move. The group split up, each heading towards their respective tasks. Caspian moved swiftly through the castle corridors, his heart pounding with worry for his teacher. He knew the layout well and navigated the twists and turns with ease. Meanwhile, Aaron made his way to the main gate, carefully avoiding patrols. He knew the success of their mission depended on him opening the door for the rest of the army. He reached the gate and began working on the lock, his hands steady despite the tension. Back in the castle, Reepicheep and his fellow mice had successfully dealt with the cat and were now in the control room. They worked quickly, disabling the castle's defenses and ensuring a smooth entry for their comrades. Caspian finally reached his teacher's quarters. He pushed open the door and found the room in disarray, books scattered everywhere. His heart sank, but he refused to give up hope. He searched the room frantically, calling out, Professor! Professor! Where are you? A faint groan came from a hidden corner. Caspian rushed over and found his teacher, bound and gagged but alive. He quickly freed him, relief flooding through him. Thank Aslan you're alive. We need to get you out of here. The professor nodded weakly, grateful for the rescue. Caspian, you must hurry. Miraz's men are everywhere. I know, Caspian replied, helping his teacher to his feet. Let's go. As they made their way back, Aaron finally managed to unlock the gate. He signaled to the waiting army, and they began to pour into the castle, ready to take on Miraz's forces. Peter and Susan, meanwhile, kept a vigilant watch, ready to spring into action at a moment's notice. They knew the battle was far from over, but with their combined efforts, they had a fighting chance. The night was filled with the sounds of clashing swords and the cries of battle. The plan was in motion, and there was no turning back. Each member of the group played their part, driven by the hope of freeing Narnia and returning home. As the first light of dawn began to break, the castle was in chaos. Miraz's forces were being overwhelmed, and victory seemed within reach. Caspian, with his teacher safe, joined the fray, fighting alongside his friends. In the end, it was a hard-fought battle, but the determination and bravery of the group prevailed. Miraz was defeated, and the castle was theirs. Exhausted but triumphant, they gathered together, knowing they had achieved something extraordinary. Aaron looked around at his friends, a sense of pride swelling within him. We did it. Narnia is free. Peter smiled, the weight of the pistol in his hand a reminder of the journey they had taken. For Narnia, he said, echoing Susan's earlier words. For Narnia, the others echoed, their voices filled with hope and determination for the future. I'll help you once I've saved him, and opening the door in time won't be a problem, Caspian assured. Peter and Susan exchanged glances, reluctantly agreeing to a slight adjustment to the plan. The group then dispersed, each heading in different directions. Caspian made his way to the prison, Trumpkin to the control room, and Peter and Susan to the king's bedroom. Aaron, however, paused after a few steps, turned back, and closed the door behind him. He then looked down through the open window, where a massive and heavy iron gate came into view, with the control dial situated on the edge of the city wall. As a mage, passing through this dungeon is really too easy, Aaron mused, pulling out the wand he hadn't used in several days from his sleeve. Allahomora, he incanted. The turntable began to rotate counterclockwise rapidly, and the iron gate rose accordingly. Mission accomplished, Aaron said, stretching his arms. He found a chair in the room, sat down leisurely, and waited for the signal to attack. Meanwhile, soldiers patrolling the control room noticed a cat under the window, its mouth and limbs bound with string. One soldier immediately became alert, gripping the hilt of his sword with his right hand. Swish! The sound of a sword being unsheathed echoed behind him, and he instinctively turned around. Reepicheep, hanging upside down in midair with his tail wrapped around a rope, met the soldier's astonished gaze. "Yes, I'm a mouse," Reepicheep declared. As he spoke, his blade sliced across the soldier's throat, and the man collapsed to the ground. Reepicheep waved his hand, and two mice rushed to guard the door. One mouse stepped on the back of the other, forming a simple ladder. Reepicheep climbed to the top, reached for the key on the door, and unlocked it. Trumpkin rushed in and shot the last guard. "I thought the person who came would be taller," Reepicheep said, somewhat disappointed. "I'm taller than you," Trumpkin replied dryly. Though the dwarf was short, it was all relative. "Is that sarcasm?" Reepicheep asked, but Trumpkin ignored him, turning around to lock the door. Chapter 434. The plan collapsed. Try and die. Caspian sneaked into the cell and found his teacher, Dr. Cornelius. The fat old man, with a white beard and white hair, was sleeping soundly on a bed made of straw. When he opened his eyes, he saw Caspian uncuffing his handcuffs. "What are you doing here?" Cornelius looked at him in surprise and anger. "I didn't help you escape so you could break in here. You have to leave before Miraz finds you." "He'll know soon enough," Caspian replied, placing Cornelius's spectacles in his hand with a relaxed smile. "I'll give him your room." After speaking, Caspian was about to leave the cell to help Aaron open the castle gate. Cornelius hurriedly stopped him. "Don't underestimate Miraz like your father did." "What did you say?" Caspian's eyes widened, realizing that his father's death might not have been as straightforward as he thought. Cornelius was silent for a few seconds. "I'm sorry." Hearing this apologetic answer, Caspian immediately confirmed his suspicion. His uncle had murdered his father for the throne, and he had been kept in the dark. Overcome with rage, Caspian rushed to Miraz's room, abandoning the battle plan. The death of his father was more important to him than anything else. Relying on his familiarity with the castle, he found Miraz before Peter and Susan could. He woke Miraz from his deep sleep with the cold tip of his sword. "Caspian, what are you doing?" Miraz's wife, now the queen of the Telmarines, looked at her nephew in astonishment, not understanding his actions. "I think it's obvious," Miraz said calmly, without any panic. "Some relatives will think this is inappropriate." "That didn't stop you," Caspian retorted. "But you're not like me, are you?" Miraz took a step forward calmly, and Caspian, afraid of killing him, took half a step back. "It's a pity that you have such backbone for the first time, but it's just a waste of effort." Click. At some point, the queen had taken out a crossbow and aimed it at Caspian. "Put down the sword, Caspian. I don't want to do this," she said. "We don't want to do that either." Susan and Peter arrived just in time, with Susan aiming her bow at the queen. The scene suddenly became tense, with both sides wary and no one daring to move. Miraz suppressed his anger and shrugged helplessly. This was originally a private room. "What are you doing here? You should have answered the door," Peter said, looking at Caspian tiredly. "Aaron is in charge of the city gate. He will take care of it." "Do you really think a 15-year-old child can open the city gate alone?" Susan said, exasperated. "Without you, he might not even know the way." 15 years old? A child? Caspian seemed to hear a joke, and his sword hand trembled slightly. "You haven't seen how he interrogated me. To be honest, it's fortunate he is not our enemy. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to defeat him together." "It seems you have made new friends," Miraz smiled. "Can you introduce me?" "Shut up." Caspian pointed his sword at Miraz's neck. "Tell me the truth. Did you kill my father?" The expression on Miraz's face froze instantly. "Is this why you came? You said your brother died in his sleep." The queen seemed to have thought of something and looked at her husband in surprise. "In a sense, you can say that," Miraz confessed. "In fact, I was very humane. His death was not painful at all." "How could you do this?" the queen said in a daze. "It would be the same if it were you. For our son, you should pull the trigger now," Miraz said as he moved forward slowly, his neck bleeding from the long sword. "Stop it," the queen said loudly. Caspian, who was pointed at by the crossbow, could only retreat helplessly. He was sure that if Miraz died, his aunt would shoot him without hesitation. "Do you want our son to be king?" Miraz continued aggressively. "Or do you want him to be Caspian II and lose his father?" Hearing this, the queen turned pale, screamed, and pulled the trigger. The crossbow bolt struck Caspian's shoulder, causing him to drop the longsword he was holding. Miraz made a quick decision, knocked open the door, and ran out. Susan immediately shot an arrow, but it was blocked by the door and missed its target. The queen's screams echoed far and wide, startling Edmund, who was waiting for Peter's signal on the tower. The flashlight he was holding fell and was picked up by a soldier. The soldier, not knowing what it was, pressed the button, and a strong white light hit his eyes, making him almost throw it away. The Narnian army on the outskirts of the castle saw the light beams swaying from side to side on the tower and were confused. What did this signal mean? It wasn't mentioned in the battle plan. Suddenly, sirens blared in the castle, signaling that foreign enemies had invaded. All the soldiers were alarmed, grabbed their weapons, and rushed out of the barracks. Aaron, who was yawning, rubbed his eyes in a daze and was speechless when he heard the sirens outside. Although plans often change, this change was too drastic. The alarm in the castle sounded before the attack signal, meaning they had completely lost the element of surprise. "It's time to go," Aaron said, stretching his limbs. He then apparated and stood in front of the turntable switch. He didn't care if there was a problem with any part of the plan. His part was flawless. The white light on the tower caught Aaron's attention. He looked closely and saw Edmund fighting fiercely with a Temorian soldier, while the flashlight lay quietly in the corner. "Damn, what kind of luck is this?" Aaron muttered. "Edmund, hurry up, signal the attack," Peter shouted as he rushed out of the castle with his sword in hand, heading towards the city gate. The soldiers in his path couldn't stop him at all. "I'm busy here," Edmund replied anxiously. In desperation, he picked up the flashlight and hit the soldier on the head with it. The soldier fainted, but the flashlight also malfunctioned. Peter, Susan, and Caspian arrived at the city gate, panting heavily, and were relieved to see that Aaron had opened it. "Send a signal to retreat," Aaron said earnestly. "We have nothing to lose, and there's still time to abandon the plan." "No, this is our only chance," Peter said stubbornly. "We can take the castle." "Are you an idiot?" Aaron scolded angrily. "The Temorians have already sounded the alarm. We're not raiding tonight, we're storming. I don't deny it, but at least we've taken down the drawbridge and the city gate. We don't have to face the solid city wall. Moreover, our army is much better prepared than the Temorians, so it might not be impossible to win this battle." Aaron rolled his eyes in exasperation. "Where do you get this confidence? I declare in advance that I will not help you kill indiscriminately. Besides, it's not that I'm trying to discourage you, but the fact is that we will never take this city tonight." "How do you know if you don't try?" Peter retorted. The corners of Aaron's mouth twitched slightly, and he gave Peter a thumbs up for his stubbornness. Then he turned to look at Susan. "Did your brother drink too much before he set off? Does he know what he's saying?" Just as Susan was about to respond, they heard dense footsteps approaching. The leader of the centaurs led the Narnian army across the drawbridge and through the city gate. It turned out that within half a minute of their conversation, Edmund had repaired the flashlight and initiated the second round of signals. Peter seized the moment and raised his sword, shouting, "For Narnia!" The king's rallying cry boosted morale, and all the troops poured into the city. Susan and Caspian also joined the battlefield, fighting the Temorian soldiers. "Damn it!" Aaron couldn't help but curse. He really wondered if he was cursed, always being exhausted by his teammates. The Narnian army soon clashed with the Temorian soldiers. Although they were outnumbered, they fought valiantly. The Narnians possessed unique racial talents in addition to their wisdom. The goatmen, for instance, were incredibly agile, capable of scaling walls with ease. Their strength made them nearly unstoppable. Reepicheep, along with his two younger brothers, rushed from the control room to assist others, alleviating some of the pressure. "Idiot! I've never seen such a foolish idiot," Aaron muttered, watching Peter struggle in the crowd without offering any help. Peter had claimed he would try, but Aaron believed he would only get himself killed. The Narnians were barely holding their own against the Temorians, but with the arrival of Temorian reinforcements, they would be at a severe disadvantage. As Aaron lamented the situation, two Temorian soldiers charged at him. "Hey, hey, hey! It's one thing for me not to help him, but it's another for you to seek your own death," Aaron complained. He then gripped his sword with both hands, sweeping the blade to send one soldier flying. Turning swiftly, he grabbed the hilt of the second soldier's sword with one hand and stabbed him in the chest with his own weapon. "Archers, find your targets," an officer shouted. Dozens of soldiers with bows and crossbows took positions at the castle's commanding heights. Edmund, descending from the tower, encountered a row of archers. He leaped from a high point, kicking one archer off the city wall, but in doing so, he exposed himself to the others. Gulping nervously, Edmund ran and ducked into a doorway just as a volley of arrows rained down. He bolted the door quickly, but to his dismay, he found himself trapped in a tower with no escape. Miraz stood proudly on the tower, observing the battle below. He suddenly realized that there was no need to build the bridge in Baruna. With Caspian and the remnants of Narnia trapped, all he had to do was close the city gate. They were like turtles in a jar, and he could wipe them out tonight. Chapter 435. The whole army retreats. You should thank me. When Aaron saw the archers aiming at the city wall, he knew he couldn't just stand by. Watching the battle was one thing, but he had to be mindful of the situation. The participants in the raid were the elite of Narnia. If they were seriously injured in this siege, the subsequent battles would be even more challenging. Boom, boom, boom. 3 gunshots echoed clearly in everyone's ears, causing both sides in the battle to pause. After a brief silence, the Centaur leader shouted, "Retreat! Retreat quickly!" The Narnians abandoned their opponents and rushed towards the city gate. Aaron spun a few guns, holstered his silver pistol, and silently retreated outside the city gate. He had done his part, ensuring Narnia's combat power was preserved to the maximum extent. "Close the city gate! Close the city gate quickly!" Miraz roared angrily. In his opinion, tonight should have been a triumphant defense of Tanmo. Although it was intense, as long as the invading enemies were wiped out, it would all be worth it. Killing Caspian would make him the sole heir to the throne. Annihilating the Narnians would fulfill his ancestors' last wish. This feat would legitimize his claim to the throne, leaving the council elders with no grounds for objection. But if the enemies escaped, it would mar the defensive battle, like a thorn in his heart. Peter was also in a daze. He didn't expect Aaron to have a second gun, nor did he expect him to send a retreat signal past him. He had planned to storm the castle and capture Miraz, but with the retreat signal sent, he had no cover, and going alone would be suicidal. "Come on, Peter," Susan called loudly. Peter's chest heaved violently, but whether he wanted to or not, he had no choice but to retreat now. "Take her out," Peter said to the Centaur leader, asking him to take Susan away. He stayed behind in the city, helping the wounded evacuate as much as possible. "Where's Caspian?" Susan asked as they passed the gate. "I didn't see him," Aaron replied truthfully. "If nothing else, he went to save his teacher. Don't worry, the retreat signal has been sent. As long as he's not deaf, he'll know where to run." Susan was speechless but followed the Centaur leader obediently. Edmund also heard the gunshots, but with soldiers chasing him and a city wall tens of meters high ahead, he had nowhere to go. Fortunately, the griffin that had brought him noticed his predicament, flew over quickly, and grabbed his shoulders, lifting him into the sky. When? The soldiers on the tower broke a chain with all their strength, causing a large bag of stones tied to it to fall. This emergency control device temporarily closed the city gates and suspension bridges to prevent foreign enemies from escaping. The city gate began to descend, and the suspension bridge outside started to rise slowly. More than half of the Narnian army had retreated, but the remaining part was too far from the city gate to make it in time. Seeing this, a Minotaur immediately stood under the city gate and lifted the gate, which weighed thousands of pounds, giving others a chance to escape. At that moment, a side door in the castle burst open, and Caspian and Cornelius rushed out. They each had a horse, and Caspian led one for Peter. Peter didn't hesitate and immediately mounted the horse, rushing towards the city gate. "Attack! Order to attack!" Miraz commanded. "But our people are still below," the general said awkwardly. Miraz didn't care. He grabbed the bow and crossbow from the general. "Attack now," he ordered. The Narnians fled, and at worst, after the bridge was built, Miraz would lead troops to encircle and annihilate them. He couldn't let Caspian go. It was a threat to his throne and to his son. Now that Caspian knew the cause of his father's death, there was no room for reconciliation between them. If Caspian succeeded in seizing the throne, he would never let him go. Numerous crossbow arrows shot at the city gate, and many Narnians fell while retreating. Ren, New's thigh, was also struck by a crossbow bolt, but he continued to hold on. "Tough guy," Aaron sighed. "To be honest, I don't like your appearance very much, but I admire your bravery." "Don't talk nonsense. Get out of here quickly. I won't last long," Renu said in a low voice. "Once I fall, not only will the city gate close, but the drawbridge will also be raised." Hearing this, Aaron sighed deeply and re-entered the city gate. "You're crazy. Hurry up," Renu urged. "Help people to the end. After all, I sent the retreat signal. It would be inappropriate to stand on the sidelines," Aaron said as he drew his long sword and deflected a few arrows aimed at them. "But I can only block the arrows aimed at you. I can't protect everyone." Renu fell silent, not knowing what to say. For the next few minutes, Aaron swung his sword with a clear rhythm, making no unnecessary movements. After everyone had withdrawn, apart from a few corpses, dozens of arrows lay shot down in front of the city gate. Even the Tamo soldiers, the general, the king, and Peter on the other side of the suspension bridge were stunned. It was as if they had returned to the time when they first learned swordsmanship, with Aaron as the instructor demonstrating top-notch skills. "Kill him," Miraz murmured, a touch of fear in his expression. "I must kill him. He is too threatening." "But, Your Majesty, our archers can't touch him." "Then close combat. I believe he can handle a dozen, but he won't be able to stop dozens," Miraz said coldly. "And the man and cow are still there. He won't retreat easily." The general nodded and immediately ordered 50 soldiers to attack the city gate. "It's almost time," Renu said with relief. "You can go now. It's lucky for several of your majesties to have a friend like you." "Maybe," Aaron shrugged, then kicked Renu in the stomach, sending him flying onto the suspension bridge. Clang! Clang! The huge and heavy iron gate fell quickly, raising a layer of dust from the ground. Renu hurriedly got up and ran to the city gate, trying to lift it, but he had expended too much energy and couldn't lift it at all. "Why are you here? The suspension bridge will be raised soon. What will you do?" "I'll be fine," Aaron said confidently. He squatted sideways, grasping the iron gate with one hand and slowly lifting it up. Gulp! The sound of swallowing saliva came one after another. Renu immediately turned around and ran out, dragging his injured leg. The general and dozens of soldiers stopped in astonishment at the sight. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would never believe that a human could have such strength. Lifting an iron gate weighing thousands of kilograms with one hand seemed impossible. "Can 50 people beat him?" the general thought, suspecting that at least 100 would be needed to take down Aaron. "Hurry up," Miraz yelled. "What are you still doing there? Kill him now!" The general came back to his senses and immediately ordered, "Kill." Dozens of soldiers charged again, but it was too late. By the time they rushed forward, Aaron had already lifted the iron gate to shoulder height. "Goodbye," Aaron said. With a clang, Aaron turned and jumped outside the city gate. As the gate fell, the suspension bridge outside began to rise slowly. Aaron didn't delay. After a run-up, he jumped high when the suspension bridge was halfway up and landed safely on the other side. Stood steadily on the other side of the suspension bridge, a distance of 5 or 6 meters away. "You?" Caspian opened his mouth in astonishment. "Are you really human? Are you only 15 years old?" Susan's eyes twitched constantly. "Don't insult my noble personality with your suspicious eyes," Aaron rolled his eyes and said. "Stop standing here. We're at the gate of the city." "Withdraw," Peter ordered helplessly, leading the Narnian army away from the castle. On the way, Aaron took out Lucy's medicine bottle and asked Susan to treat the wounded, ensuring it did not affect their speed of progress. At day, when everyone returned to the bunker. However, compared to before, the atmosphere in the team was more depressing. "What's wrong?" Lucy asked worriedly. "Obviously, it failed." Aaron shrugged casually and returned the medicine bottle to Lucy. "This thing is really useful. It has saved many wounded people." "I just wondered why it disappeared," Lucy said speechlessly, though she couldn't blame anyone. "You should give me back my gun," Aaron demanded, looking at Peter meaningfully. Peter pursed his lips and returned the revolver. "You had a second gun? Why didn't you tell us?" Peter asked. "You didn't even ask. Besides, I'm not familiar with you guys, so I didn't dare hand over the weapon without some help." "Should you give me an explanation for the retreat signal?" Peter said with a grim expression. "You should thank me," Aaron said confidently. "From the moment the alarm was raised in the castle, we had no advantage. You insisted on launching an attack, but I didn't stop it. After all, people always die in wars, and we were all mentally prepared for this. But when you're at a disadvantage, you should make a decisive decision." "You were stunned at that time. If I hadn't sent the retreat signal in time when Miraz closed the city gate, our entire army would have been wiped out. I wanted to capture the thief first, capture the king first, and take down Miraz." "Amazing," Aaron clapped his hands. "Kurstrang, but the premise is that you have to fight all the way to the tower. Even if the soldiers who are fighting turn a blind eye to you, you still need to kill about 40 guards." "I had other people to cover me," Peter said, unconvinced. "I don't deny it," Aaron nodded. "But at that time, 2 rows of archers were already in place. Are you planning to fight against a rain of arrows? Even if you are lucky enough to kill them, the Narnian army may not survive. Your gun was in my hand. As long as there was a chance to get close, it was still possible." "Heh," Aaron couldn't help laughing. "With all due respect, you probably haven't touched a gun before. How confident are you in your marksmanship?" Peter was speechless. At that time, there were many guards beside Miraz. If the first shot didn't kill him, there would be no second chance. "Could you have killed him?" Caspian asked tentatively. "Yes, you still had a second gun." Peter seemed to have grasped the point. "Your marksmanship is so good. If you—" "Stop," Aaron said speechlessly. "I was at the gate of the city, and Miraz was on the tower. Killing a closely guarded king with a pistol from a distance of several hundred meters is a bit too big a joke." Aaron was very clear about his abilities. His marksmanship was good, but there was still a big gap between hitting 100 shots. At a distance of several hundred meters, unless the pistol was replaced with a sniper rifle, he really couldn't hit it. But he couldn't explain clearly when the 2 guns were taken out. He didn't want to use magic in front of so many people. "By the way, did you and Susan fail to take down Miraz?" Hearing this, Peter became out of breath immediately and glared at Caspian fiercely. "You have to ask His Royal Highness about this." "Me?" Caspian asked, taken aback. "If you had followed the plan, we wouldn't be so embarrassed." "I admit that I am responsible." Caspian took a deep breath. "It's really hard to stay calm in the face of killing one's father and enemy." "Killing your father and your enemy?" Aaron suddenly showed an expression of interest. A scene of open and secret fighting between brothers for the throne emerged in his mind. "It has nothing to do with you," Caspian said, his mouth twitching slightly. "Even if we proceed according to the plan, we may not succeed. You 2 are in his dorm too, and he sleeps with a crossbow next to his pillow. Things still don't change. In my opinion, staying here and using defense as a fence may give us a better chance of winning." "It was you who asked us to come. Have you forgotten?" Peter retorted. Caspian paused. "That as my mistake." "No, your mistake is thinking of yourself as the savior who can lead everyone. I am not the one who abandoned Narnia. But it was you who invaded Narnia. You, your father, Miraz." "That's enough," Aaron interrupted, stepping between them. "I have to remind you 2 that the bridge in Baruna is about to be repaired, and the Temorian army will attack soon." At this, Peter and Caspian ceased their quarrel. The current situation was very unfavorable to them, and establishing fortifications to deal with Miraz's army became their top priority. Meanwhile, in the castle of the Temorians, Miraz was officially enthroned in the Parliament Hall, and Supi crowned him. The elders of the parliament did not raise any objections. After all, they felt threatened by the Narnia raid last night. Whether or not Prince Caspian had mingled with the Narnians was uncertain, but that was beside the point. What the Timorians needed most at this moment was not a prince, but a king who could eradicate threats and guard the kingdom. No one was more suitable than Miraz. Chapter 436, More Powerful Ancient Magic, The Prince's Last Decency. Caspian stared blankly at the murals on the wall, wondering if he had made a mistake. The kings of ancient Narnia were not as great as the legends claimed. They could neither help him regain the throne nor save Narnia. "Are you confused?" Aaron teased. "No," Caspian replied. "Come on, it's written all over your face," Aaron retorted. Caspian's expression froze. "Don't talk to me like an elder. I'm older than you." "Age is the only thing you have over me," Aaron grinned, then turned his attention to the wall. 2 men and 2 women stood before the throne, and Narnia thrived under their rule. You blew the horn, got yourself 4 helpers, and hoped they would save you. When people lack confidence, they always pin their hopes on others. I understand this very well, but it's common for others to be unreliable. At such times, you have to. Aaron's voice abruptly stopped, and he collapsed to the ground. "What are you doing?" Caspian asked, bewildered, looking at Nikabrik. "He's fine. I just put him to sleep," Nikabrik said, patting the scabbard in his hand. "That's how he knocked me out that night." "Why do this?" Caspian asked. "For you, your royal highness," Nikabrik replied with a meaningful smile. "Your king and queen have failed us, your army is severely damaged, and the rest are doomed." "What do you mean?" "Congratulations?" Caspian asked, confused. Nikabrik looked straight into his eyes, a hint of temptation in his voice. "You want to kill your uncle for revenge, and so do we. If you want to take back the throne, we can help you too." "Who do you mean?" Caspian frowned slightly. The "we" Nikabrik mentioned had nothing to do with the Narnians. "You'll know," Nikabrik said, then walked into the depths of the bunker. Caspian hesitated for a moment, then followed. After they left, Aaron, who was lying on the ground, quietly opened his eyes. "Hiss!" Aaron touched the back of his head. "It still hurts. That bastard is definitely trying to kill me." He had noticed Nikabrik's approach, but pretended not to know, taking a hit just to understand his purpose. Thanks to the medicinal solution prepared by his ancestors and the modification of the Dragon Slayer crystal, his physique far surpassed that of ordinary people. Unless Nikabrik used an iron rod instead of a scabbard, he wouldn't be knocked unconscious. "No, I still need to find a way to increase my physical strength," Aaron thought to himself. As a mage, even as a human, his physical fitness was abnormal, but it was not enough. Even the dwarf's scabbard could cause him some pain, but if it were replaced with a more powerful weapon, he would be in serious trouble. Nikabrik led Caspian to the deepest hall, neither of them noticing Aaron following them. "You have tried ancient magic, but failed. But there is a more powerful mana, one that even Aslan was suppressed by for hundreds of years," Nikabrik said. As his words fell, a strange low growl sounded from the shadows in the hall, making one's scalp tingle. Caspian instantly drew his sword. "Who's there?" he demanded. 2 figures in black robes slowly walked out of the darkness, one tall and one thin. They moved slowly towards Caspian, their faces illuminated by the firelight. The tall one was a fierce wolf, and the thin one was a shadowy vulture. "I am hunger, I am longing. I will not starve to death without eating for hundreds of years. I will not freeze to death lying on the ice for hundreds of days. I can drink the blood of a river, and I will not quench my thirst," the wolf growled, removing his hood to reveal a ferocious face. Tell me, who is your enemy?" Caspian started and pointed his sword at him. "What you hate, we also hate. No one hates more than us," the vulture witch said in a drawn-out tone. Caspian thought for a moment. "Can you really kill Miraz?" "It's a trivial matter," the vulture witch replied, bending over. At this, Caspian was silent for a moment, then put away his sword. The magic horn couldn't help puff, so they decided to use a higher form of magic. "Let's draw a circle," said the vulture witch, tracing a circle around Caspian with her black claws across the ground. While drawing the circle, she chanted ancient spells. After finishing, she took out a silver-white staff that resembled a short spear and stabbed it fiercely into the ground. Click, click, A white chill emanated from the staff, and solid ice soon covered the ground, spreading forward. The ice connected the two stone pillars together, forming a tall and thick ice wall. A white figure emerged from the ice wall, becoming clearer with each passing moment. Nikaburi, the evil wolf, and the witch watched this scene with satisfaction, the corners of their mouths curling up. Soon, a white-haired witch in a white dress appeared within the ice wall, her eyes cold and indifferent to all living beings. Gollum. Aaron, who was observing all this from the doorway, couldn't help but swallow nervously. This witch gave him a great sense of oppression, almost comparable to Voldemort. He hadn't met her before, but Narnia was full of legends about her, the White Witch who ruled Narnia for hundreds of years. "My dear, can the villain live like this?" Aaron secretly complained. Maybe the White Witch did die hundreds of years ago, but she didn't die completely. Her servants could resurrect her in a special way, and Narnia would be covered in ice and snow again. Wait. Caspian seemed to recognize the woman, his face changing drastically as he retreated subconsciously. "This is not what I want." The wolf seized him immediately, aiming his left hand at the White Witch. "A drop of Adam's blood will set me free," the White Witch tempted. "I will obey you, my king." "No." Caspian struggled violently, but was pinned down by the wolf. The vulture witch slashed his palm with a dagger, and red blood flowed from it. The White Witch smiled and stretched out her right hand eagerly. Her white fingers passed through the ice wall and were exposed to the air. Caspian seemed to feel something, his eyes blurred, and his resistance eased. "We can't wait any longer," Aaron thought anxiously. He couldn't defeat a wizard who was suspected of being a holy magician. Boom! A golden bullet hit the White Witch's hand. The sound of shattering ice crystals followed, accompanied by screams of pain. The White Witch's right hand did not bleed, but developed some cracks, which quickly healed. "Magic," the White Witch said subconsciously. The wolf, the vulture, and Nikaburi also noticed Aaron, who had broken in. What about you?" Nikaburi said nervously. "Didn't I knock you out?" "With you?" Aaron said disdainfully. "You underestimate me. If I didn't volunteer, you wouldn't have been able to get close to me at all." The wolf and the witch immediately roared and charged at him. No one was allowed to interrupt the ceremony at this stage. "Ridiculous," Aaron sneered and fired twice. The witch was shot in the head, black blood splattering everywhere, but the wolf avoided the fatal blow by relying on its beastly instincts. "Leave it to me," the wolf growled at Nikaburi. "Release the queen quickly." Nikaburi grabbed Caspian and tried to give him a last-ditch push. "Don't think about it." Aaron took aim, but the wolf swooped in to stop him just before he pulled the trigger. "Ow!" The wolf let out a deep howl and fought with Aaron at close range, never giving him a chance to shoot. Its arms swiped down quickly, and its black, cold claws pierced Aaron's chest. Aaron raised his brows slightly, dodged the claw sideways, then stretched out his left hand like lightning and punched the wolf on the chin. Boom! The wolf flew backward, a few sharp teeth falling to the ground. "You could have died happily. Why did you have to suffer a little bit of flesh and blood?" Aaron shook his head slowly, then shot the wolf between the eyebrows. Nikaburi had just run into the circle. Half of the White Witch's right arm was sticking out of the ice wall, only a few steps away from complete freedom. Aaron's left hand was tainted with blood. "Don't move," he shouted, pointing his gun at Nikaburi. "If you don't want to die, don't move," Nikaburi sneered. "How many bullets do you have left?" Aaron hesitated. He had 4 bullets in his revolver last night. He used one to injure the White Witch, another for a headshot on the Vulture Witch, missed one shot at the wolf, and the last one killed the wolf. The gun was now empty. "Damn it," Nikaburi smirked. "If you figured it out, don't stop me. We need the queen's power." He continued to drag the bewildered Caspian closer to the White Witch. "Stop!" Peter, Edmund, Susan, Lucy, and Chumpkin burst into the room. "Don't come any closer," Nikaburi warned, pressing his sword against Caspian's neck. "Come any closer, and I'll kill him. Do you know what you're doing?" Chumpkin asked, his voice filled with heartbreak as he looked at the ice wall. He never expected this betrayal from Nikaburi. Once the White Witch is revived. "That's much better than the Temorians," Nikaburi interrupted. "At least we wouldn't be stuck lingering in the forest when Narnia was covered in snow and ice hundreds of years ago. The forest is almost gone now. If we don't rescue the queen, we will die. Nikabri, put down your sword, Susan urged gently. This won't solve any problems. It will only make things worse. No, it's all your fault. You betrayed our trust, Nikabri shouted. If we continue to follow you, Narnia will fall into ruin. The Queen has the power to change everything. The White Witch's lips curled into a slight smile. You can't fight alone. You need my help. Do you think we will believe you? Edmund sneered, gripping his sword tightly. I remember how you tricked me. You lured me to your castle, locked me in a cold cell, and threatened me with death. I don't believe a word you say. It's different this time, the White Witch laughed. Adam's blood can free me, but it also binds me to a complicated contract. I can't harm the human who releases me, and I must serve him. If I violate this, I will be sealed again. Serve? Aaron said skeptically, pointing to the blank-eyed Caspian. Like him? To be your puppet? You can't harm him, but you can control his thoughts. Do you want to rule from behind the scenes? The White Witch's expression faltered, but she quickly regained her composure. Of course not. It's just a side effect of the ceremony. But you can do this, Aaron said, spreading his hands. You can't fool me. No one finds loopholes in contracts better than Gaius. Even if you surrender wholeheartedly to the one who sets you free, how long can humans live? When he dies, Narnia will still be in your hands. The White Witch stopped pretending. I do think that way, but how it plays out depends on who releases me. Prince Caspian is an excellent leader. Even though I can influence him subtly, some essences are hard to change. While he lives, I can only lead Narnia to prosperity and power according to his ideas, and at most, I can prolong the winter. And after he dies? Peter asked seriously. Winter will naturally overwhelm summer, the White Witch said nonchalantly. But as Nikabri said, my rule is infinitely better than that of the Temorians. You don't need me to remind you how to choose between the current catastrophe, decades of affluent life, and later looser rule. Peter and Susan hesitated, unable to deny the White Witch's logic. Lucy and Edmund looked grim. Lucy was a staunch supporter of Aslan, and Edmund had suffered greatly from the White Witch's deceit. They both knew that cooperating with her was like seeking help from a tiger. We must not trust her, Lucy said firmly. Lucy spoke softly. Aslan is the patron saint of Narnia. Peter sighed, a wry smile playing on his lips. Of course, I know we can't trust her, but Aslan hasn't shown up yet. Lingering is better than extermination. We need to resolve the immediate crisis first before we can even think about the future. Peter, Susan interjected, her voice steady but firm. Let's listen to them this time. Compared to the White Witch, the Temorians are a lesser threat. How pretentious, Aaron scoffed, striding purposefully towards Nikabri. Don't come any closer, or I'll kill him. Nikabri shouted, his voice trembling with desperation. Let Caspian go. You can't keep making the same mistakes, Trumpkin pleaded. Shut up, Trumpkin. Your king and queen can't save Narnia, so don't stop me from saving myself. Nikabri retorted, his voice filled with defiance. The heated exchange between the two dwarves did nothing to deter Aaron. Each step he took felt like a heavy hammer striking Nikabri's heart. Aren't you afraid I'll kill him? Nikabri's voice wavered. Go ahead, Aaron replied, nonchalantly. Since we know each other, I suggest you make it quick and clean. Seal his throat with a sword so Caspian's death will be easier. But be careful with your strength. Don't chop off his head. After all, he is a prince. Leaving his body intact is the least you can do. The crowd fell silent, their collective breath held in suspense. Chapter 437. This arrow shot beautifully, and it can be rescued. Aaron, are you kidding? Edmund asked nervously. No, I'm very serious, Aaron replied, looking at Nikabrik meaningfully. Go ahead and give him a good time. I guarantee that your death will be just as good. Don't come any closer. Nikabrik's eyes showed a hint of panic, and traces of blood appeared from the sword pressing on Caspian's neck. Stop it, Susan yelled worriedly. Nikabrik has gone mad, said Trumpkin seriously. He's really going to kill Caspian. It doesn't matter, Aaron said lightly. Caspian and I have only known each other for a few days. When he dies, I will mourn for him for a minute, but I will also avenge him so that he can die in peace. Aaron continued to move forward. Nikabrik was shocked. Stop him, or I'll kill Caspian at once. Susan pulled her bow and pointed it at Aaron. Stop. Aaron rolled his eyes and said, Can you use some brains? He wouldn't kill Caspian. It takes the blood of the living to set the White Witch free, not the blood of the dead. Nicobrick's heart skipped a beat. He really couldn't kill Caspian if he wanted to save the queen. Both of you don't move. I'll shoot whoever moves, Susan said helplessly. She didn't know whether what Aaron said was true or not, but she didn't dare to bet on Caspian's life. You don't have much time. The Telmarine army will attack soon, the White Witch said flatly. It's not wise to waste time. I'm afraid you wish they could kill them now, Aaron said disdainfully. We haven't made sufficient defense preparations yet. If the Telmarine army arrives, we can only cooperate with you. The White Witch smiled and said nothing. The choice was always in their hands, but the longer the delay, the greater her advantage. What should I do? Edmund asked helplessly. It's very simple. You go and stop Susan, and I'll kill Nicobrick, Aaron pointed out. You don't want the White Witch to rule Narnia again, do you? What? Susan was caught off guard. That's too risky. Don't hesitate at this time. She is your sister. She won't shoot you with an arrow. But what about Caspian? Asked Peter. He won't die. Nicobrick dared not kill him if he wanted to free the White Witch. Don't force me, Nicobrick yelled sternly. If I can't survive, I don't mind taking someone with me. Seeing that the others were still hesitant, Aaron was speechless. As long as you are fast enough, you have a chance. Don't forget, Queen Lucy also has a small medicine bottle. Hearing this, the smile on the White Witch's face quickly faded, and she eagerly stretched out her right hand. Hurry up. Give me the blood. The blood can set me free. Nicobrick didn't care too much and pushed Caspian directly towards the ice wall. Beautiful thought. Aaron stepped forward quickly, kicking Caspian out of the circle with a flying kick. Susan immediately let go of her right hand, and a red arrow shot through Nicobrick's knee. He screamed in pain, and Trumpkin immediately stepped forward and restrained him. What happened just now? Caspian shook his head in confusion, recalling the previous memories in his mind, and couldn't help swallowing in fear. It's a good thing you stopped me from letting her out, or I'd be a sinner in Narnia. You're welcome. Just now, you really didn't care about my life. How is it possible? Aaron said solemnly. That was just a strategy. I will never take my friend's life lightly. Caspian smiled faintly. He didn't think it was a strategy. He might not be worth much as a hostage in Aaron's eyes. Okay, it's over. Aaron gave the White Witch a harmless smile, and then drew the long sword from Caspian's waist. Goodbye. No, never again. Wait, the White Witch hurriedly said. You can let me out, and I will obey you. Sorry, I'm not some inexperienced kid. You can't fool me. It feels contained. You are not like them, wizard. Are you a wizard? Peter asked, looking at Aaron seriously. How is it possible? Don't listen to her. Nonsense. See, Aaron muttered, raising his sword. He didn't want his true identity revealed. A boy and a boy wizard were two completely different concepts. He's indeed a wizard, Peter, the old White Witch said, her voice calm but firm. And his mana is not weak. Even I can't gauge its depth. Aaron's sword clashed against the ice wall, creating a crack but not harming the White Witch. Damn it, he cursed, glaring at Susan. Are you out of your mind? There's still time. Listen to her, Dex, Susan said, her voice tinged with guilt. Would you rather believe our sworn enemy than me? Aaron demanded. We just want to find out the truth, Edmund said hesitantly. The White Witch is insidious and cunning, but if she wanted to deceive us, she wouldn't be so obvious about it. It's because of the absurdity that she can deceive you, Aaron retorted angrily. But you are really special, Peter said thoughtfully. In our knowledge, it's impossible for a 15-year-old boy to carry an iron gate weighing several thousand pounds or to have such exaggerated swordsmanship. Isn't it possible to be born with supernatural power and extraordinary talent? Aaron countered. A sorcerer sneaked into your team and deliberately hid his strength, the White Witch said with a meaningful smile. Is there any ulterior motive? You know me well, but how much do you know about him? What does it mean to have a powerful wizard when the armies of Narnia and the Tamorans are on the verge of clashing? Shut up, Aaron's face darkened, and just as he was about to attack again, a red arrow fell in front of him. Don't move yet, Peter warned. You are really unreasonable. Aaron felt his brain buzzing. He turned to look at the playful White Witch. Don't think you can escape by stalling for time. I didn't mean that. the White Witch said, extending her right hand confidently. Peter, strange wizards are a threat to Narnia, and you need the strength to fight against him. I don't believe you, Peter said, pursing his lips. But you can't trust him either, can you? The White Witch pressed. I trust him, Lucy suddenly interrupted. Aaron can be trusted. Aslan told me. Aaron's mouth twitched slightly. I would be very happy if it weren't for your last half sentence, but with this little trust in you, I will save your life before I leave this world. As for the others, you're on your own. After speaking, Aaron looked at Susan, and a purple light flashed in his pupils. She immediately put down her bow and arrow, standing there in a daze. What did you do to her? Peter asked, pointing his sword at Aaron vigilantly. Don't worry, I didn't hurt her. It's just a little hypnotism. Why? Edmund frowned slightly. Do you like being pointed at with bows and arrows all the time? Aaron asked rhetorically, then changed the topic. Actually, I am quite magnanimous, but magnanimity does not mean I have no temper. Edmund was speechless for a moment. If he stood under someone else's arrow, he probably couldn't stand it either. Are you really a wizard? Lucy asked with interest. 4th grade wizard at the magic school. After the holidays, it's time to advance to 5th grade, Aaron said lightly. Satisfied? And the magic school? Lucy's eyes widened. Why haven't we heard of it? The Ministry of Magic stipulates that ordinary people generally do not know the existence of wizards. Then why didn't you tell us? Peter slowly put down his sword. If you had made it clear earlier, there wouldn't be so many misunderstandings. This is a rule passed down from my ancestors to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings. In the Middle Ages, ordinary people caught wizards and burned them alive. The city and life of the Temorians are not much different from those in that period. Do I dare to talk nonsense? Aaron said angrily. I came to Narnia for no reason. All I wanted was to go home, but I didn't expect to join a war in a daze. Having said that, I saved you once last night, right? Is this how you treat your savior? Several people looked at each other, in confusion, lowering their heads silently, not daring to meet his gaze. As the scene grew increasingly awkward, no one noticed the White Witch subtly winking at Nicabri. He understood immediately, but refrained from making any sudden movements, fearing that Chuan Pujin would notice. Instead, he continued searching for something. I'm going to deal with her now. Does anyone have any objections? Aaron asked. Several people, including Susan, who had regained their composure, shook their heads and remained silent. Maybe we can cooperate, the White Witch suggested with a laugh. Ordinary people will gradually fall under my control, but wizards are different. I can recognize you as my lord and serve you. To be honest, I'm a little tempted, but you're more insidious than the dark wizards I've encountered. I can't trust you, Aaron replied, holding his sword horizontally in front of him, aiming at the White Witch's abdomen. Wait, you'd better think this through, the White Witch said, her voice tinged with nervousness. I have part of Narnia's supreme magic book. I can help you rule Narnia. Heh! If someone in our family rules other worlds, they will be expelled from the family tree, Aaron sneered. Goodbye. Just as he was about to strike the White Witch, Nicabri suddenly yelled, broke free from Chumpkin's grasp, picked up a long sword from the ground, and lunged at Aaron. Whoosh! A red arrow suddenly shot at Nicabri. No! Aaron turned pale with shock, but it was too late. The arrow had already pierced Nicabri's chest. Susan stammered, unsure of what to say. You're welcome. Thanks. I thank you, Uncle, Aaron said sarcastically. I saved you. I don't need you to save me. And Aaron's expression darkened as he looked at the ice wall that sealed the White Witch. How about we continue discussing your conditions? Now you are not qualified to negotiate with me, child, the White Witch sneered, her demeanor completely different from before. Click, click. Several cracks appeared on the ice wall, and white cold air spread rapidly through the hall. Because Adam didn't give blood directly, it will take longer for the seal to be released, but it's enough, the White Witch explained. When? Peter asked in astonishment. Just now, Aaron said angrily. The sword in Nicabri was stained with Caspian's blood. I could have stopped him, but Queen Susan's arrow was so perfectly shot that he threw his sword over the ice wall before dying. I didn't mean it, Susan said, feeling aggrieved. The dwarves served me hundreds of years ago. I didn't expect them to remain loyal after all this time. the White Witch said. Don't slander all the dwarves because of one or two traitors, Chumpkin said coldly. What should we do now? Lucy asked nervously. Kill her before the seal is completely released, Edmund suggested. He and Peter exchanged glances and simultaneously drew their long swords, charging at the White Witch. But before they could get close, the white cold air turned into ice spikes and knocked them back. Idiot, if it were that easy, I would have done it already, Aaron said disdainfully. Stop making sarcastic remarks and think of a way, Lucy said anxiously. There is still a way, Aaron said, taking a deep breath. He turned to look at Caspian. Your Highness, you don't mind making a little sacrifice for Narnia, do you? Caspian shuddered. What do you want? The condition for breaking the seal is Adam's blood, the blood of a human male, but the blood of the dead has no effect. In other words, as long as you die, the release of the seal will be forced to stop. Stop! The White Witch's face changed drastically, and she roared angrily. You will not lose if you release me. At least it is much better than dying under the iron hooves of the Temorians. If I die to solve this big trouble, I can accept that, Caspian said seriously, then added, but is there really no other way? It's the easiest way, Aaron replied. What about the complicated ones? Lucy asked. Ed, what's the complicated way? Aaron inquired. Kill her before the seal is completely released, Lucy repeated, her voice filled with determination. Before she breaks the seal, Aaron said, his voice tense. But we can't get close to her, Peter replied, frustration evident in his tone. You're a wizard, Chumpkin interjected, looking directly at Aaron. Maybe you can do something. Aaron hesitated. It would take a lot of effort, or I wouldn't have suggested killing Caspian in the first place. So there's a chance it could work? Peter asked, his eyes widening with hope. Aaron sighed. I said it's possible, but I'm not absolutely sure. Susan, her anxiety palpable, chimed in. Even if there's only a slim chance, we have to try. We can't risk Caspian's life. But I need time, Aaron cautioned. If I fail, it will be too late to kill Caspian. Let me do it, Caspian said, taking a deep breath. The future of Narnia is at stake. We cannot delay or take unnecessary risks. Aaron looked at him with a mix of relief and concern. Your determination is admirable, although I'm only about 50% sure. Wait, Peter interrupted, his voice sharp. Did you say 50% sure? Aaron nodded. Yes, but we can't afford to lose the other 50%. I think Caspian understands that too. Everyone exchanged worried glances. Caspian, his face pale and streaked with sweat, weakly raised his bleeding left hand. I think I can still be saved, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Chapter 438, Strengthening the Seal and Testing New Weapons. Peter and the others quickly withdrew, leaving only Aaron and the White Witch in the not-so-empty hall, waiting for the seal to be broken. Careless in making friends, Aaron sighed, exasperated. This isn't the first time I've encountered someone like this. In fact, it's happened many times. They get into trouble, are unreliable, and always hold me back. Yet every time I have to clean up the mess. A 90% certainty seems high, but if I fail, I'll have to face a great magician who has broken through the seal. They really didn't consider my situation at all. The White Witch showed a flattering smile and spoke in a gentle tone. You and I are both wizards. There's no need to fight to the death. This is necessary. You die, I live. What are you trying to achieve? We wield great power, and they are mere ants, fit only to live under our rule. Aaron plucked his ears impatiently. I'm not interested in ruling, but I am quite interested in saving Narnia. Your power is too strong. I'm sorry, but I can't let you out. A flash of hatred crossed the White Witch's eyes. It seems there's nothing to discuss, but can you answer me one question before I disappear? Go ahead. They don't see your strength, but I can. With your magic power, you could completely wipe out the army of Temorians. Why don't you? First of all, peace is a complicated thing, and easy peace is not strong. Next, Aslan had some bright little girl warn me not to go too far. Finally, I have a lot of blood on my hands. Although the people who died at my hands deserved it, if I don't restrain myself and start killing at every turn, then sooner or later, I will become more terrifying than you. Aaron spoke very seriously, then glanced at the ice wall that was more than half cracked and slowly raised his right hand. The next moment, 5 magic circles of red, blue, yellow, green, and purple surrounded the ice wall, connecting into a pentagram in midair, continuously compressing the white, cold air. The ice wall stopped shattering immediately, but Aaron frowned slightly. The situation seemed different from what he expected. There was a force hindering his seal, and the part of the ice wall that had been broken could not be repaired. "Isn't it a surprise? This is the Supreme Grimoire," the White Witch said proudly. "Your sealing magic is impressive and has isolated the influence of Adam's blood on me. But what has happened is hard to change. I have plenty of time. Hundreds of years, or even thousands, are just a flick of a finger for me. Your seal will gradually be obliterated by time, and then I will regain my freedom." "It's a bit troublesome," Aaron admitted, smacking his lips. "But it doesn't matter. I am confident that I will become a god within 100 years, and I will kill you then. If I'm not mistaken, the High Magic Code is only a rule for Narnia, but for the gods, it is a piece of paper that can be torn at will." "Are you kidding me?" The White Witch roared angrily, her white hair flying within the ice wall. "This is really not a joke." Aaron shook his head, then changed the topic. "But forget it. 100 years is too long, and accidents may happen in the meantime. I don't like leaving hidden dangers." With that, Aaron took out a small bottle of purple solution. "I haven't used this since I got it, and it's worthy of its value to use it on a great magician today." "What is this?" The White Witch's eyes widened in astonishment, her face turning pale instantly. "No, take it away. Don't come here." "Don't worry, you won't feel pain." Aaron shrugged, then opened the medicine bottle and poured all the moon drops on the White Witch's staff. The protection given to her by the Supreme Magic Code disappeared without a trace at that moment, and the 5-fold magic circle instantly became brighter, completely engulfing the white, cold air. The shattered ice wall also began to repair itself. Seeing the immediate effect of the moondrop, Aaron felt his heart twitch inexplicably, as if this wave was a loss. But after setting his eyes on the silver-white staff, he felt a bit comforted. The material was special, imbued with the power of ice and snow. Taking it back and melting it down could improve the progress of artifact forging. "What are you thinking?" the White Witch asked. "I was thinking, it has nothing to do with you," Aaron replied, then pulled out the staff and openly placed it into his dressing room. The White Witch's eyes widened. Even if she wanted to steal her magic weapon, it would be best to wait until after she died. What did he mean by grabbing it in person? It wasn't very harmful, but it was extremely insulting. "It's almost time to send you on your way," Aaron said, reaching into a wine-red magic circle. He took out a flintlock pistol and loaded a red bullet into it in front of the White Witch. "This is an enchanted bullet made from the tail feathers of a phoenix," Aaron explained patiently. "Now you are the fish on the chopping board, and any sword can kill you. But you are the first wizard comparable to a holy magician to die at my hands, so there is still a necessary sense of ritual. I made this bullet with great difficulty, and it contains powerful flame energy. This ice wall will melt instantly, and you won't even have a scum left." The White Witch was speechless. Was there a need to kill her in such a fresh and refined manner? Boom! The red bullet hit the White Witch's forehead, and as she roared unwillingly and resentfully, the crimson flames engulfed everything. Peter and the others outside heard the gunshot and rushed in. "Where's the White Witch?" Lucy asked. "Of course, she's dead. I used a very, very, very precious one-time magic item," Aaron said solemnly, although he still had plenty of those bullets. "Okay," Peter nodded. "At least we won't have any worries." "Since you are a wizard, then?" Susan hesitated. "Maybe I shouldn't ask this question, but do you have any way to deal with the army of Temorians?" The others looked at Aaron expectantly, as if they regarded him as a life-saving straw. Aaron was a powerful fighter before, which was helpful to the battle situation, but he would not have much advantage against an army. But now Aaron was a powerful wizard, and the White Witch had personally recognized it. Magic might play a subversive role in war. "Well," Aaron showed a look of embarrassment. "I'm just an ordinary fourth-year wizard, and I'm still 3 years away from graduation." "What do you mean?" asked Caspian. Aaron rolled his eyes. "It means that I can't fight an army, and in the end, it still has to rely on the Narnians themselves." When everyone heard this, a look of disappointment inevitably flashed in their eyes, but they soon cheered up. "Your Majesty, we must make preparations," Trumpkin said. "I know." Peter nodded heavily. "Let everyone get ready for battle, put on their armor and weapons, and we have to discuss how to deploy our troops." "And dig a trap," said Caspian. "I know the Tamori army, the catapults, the cavalry, and finally the infantry. If there is no temporary change of generals, it should still be this attack mode." Caspian sat on a rock above the bunker, watching the sun rise in the distance. Cornelius came over to accompany his proud student. "Why don't you ever talk about my father?" Caspian asked. "My mother is a black dwarf from the mountains in the north," Cornelius said in a deep voice. "I have taken risks all these years just so that one day you can become a better king than your ancestors." "Then I've let you down," said Caspian, bowing his head. Cornelius shook his head slightly. "Everything I tell you and what I don't tell you is because I believe in you. It's your chance to become the noblest paradox in history and save the Tamorians of Narnia." Clap, clap, clap! Aaron walked over while clapping his hands. Behind him were Peter and the others, all looking a little excited. "As expected of the prince's teacher, what you said is very good. We will not fail," Aaron said. "Stay I end this world for too long, and the hope of saving Narnia falls on you. Don't let us down." "Why are you here?" Peter asked. "We came to test Aaron's new weapon," Edmund said excitedly. "I thought it was incredible when Aaron brought 2 pistols here, but I didn't expect. Anyway, my expectations were too small." "New weapon?" Aaron snapped his fingers, and a green magic circle emerged. A black sniper rifle, about a meter long, landed in his arms. "That's it," Peter sighed. "A heavy sniper rifle. I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes." "I love magic," Lucy laughed. Edmund couldn't help but stretch out his right hand, but before he could touch it, Aaron glared at him. "Look only, don't touch." "Hey, don't be so stingy," Edmund said, embarrassed. "Which boy can resist such a temptation?" "It's a shame that you were a king hundreds of years ago, and you can't even resist this temptation," Aaron said, giving him a blank stare. "Don't make me despise you, Edmund, or you still despise me." Aaron's mouth twitched slightly, and he looked at Edmund meaningfully. "Why don't you stand in front and be a target for me? You might not even be able to shoot bullets through your face." "Stop joking. Business matters," Peter interjected. Aaron shrugged, found a suitable position, and put down the sniper rifle. "See that tree over there?" I don't want to say it, but it seems that the opposite side is full of trees," Caspian said with an unnatural expression. "The one with the fruit," Aaron clarified. "We don't have a scope," Susan rolled her eyes. "It's at least a mile away from the woods. We can barely see the trees." "Okay, I was negligent. I tried to make you ordinary people see clearly," Aaron said. He then lay down on the ground, adjusted his breathing, pulled the bolt, and aimed. With the infusion of magic power, a green magic circle appeared on the scope, and the pattern on the gun body shone with a dark light. Boom! The golden bullet shot out, directly interrupting a towering giant tree 2,000 meters away. Hiss! There was a sound of gasping for air. Peter and the others looked in disbelief, while Caspian and Cornelius stood up in astonishment. "This gun is a bit more powerful," Peter said, wide-eyed. "Not only that," Susan murmured. "This must be 2,000 meters away." "Not much, 400 meters," Aaron said proudly. "This gun was made by my ancestors with painstaking efforts. All parts except the bullets were completed by him independently. Its basic data far exceeds that of ordinary firearms, and its range is 2,000 meters. But how powerful it can be in the hands of a wizard like me depends on the amount of magic power infused. The more magic power infused, the greater the power, but there is a certain upper limit, and if you want to continue to increase the power on this basis, you can only use special bullets." Everyone was stunned and didn't recover for a long time. "Have wizards kept pace with the times?" Edmund asked in surprise. "Why do I think you guys are more proficient with guns than ordinary people? Our family has a lot of side businesses, one of which is ammunition," Aaron said shyly. Hearing this, Peter and the others looked at each other in blank dismay. The case was solved. No wonder a good wizard would bring so many firearms. This family condition is unique. "To what extent can it be the most powerful?" Caspian asked earnestly. It shouldn't be a problem to smash the gate of Tamar Castle, Aaron said after thinking for a while. This was an answer everyone could accept. In fact, with his current level of magic power and 3 enchanted bullets, not to mention the city gate, even the city wall could collapse. But this was a bit shocking, and he didn't need to tell them. If that's the case, we can hold it, Caspian said with relief. If we're lucky, we might win the battle. The ideal is full, but the reality... Aaron didn't finish his sentence, but everyone's heart skipped a beat. What's the reality? Susan asked eagerly. The reality is... The conditions are very limited, Aaron said, patting the body of the sniper rifle. The ammunition capacity is 15 rounds. 1 round was used just now, so there are 14 rounds left. Additionally, my magic power is limited, and I can't achieve maximum power with every shot. 14 chances? Peter frowned slightly. That's okay. As long as we can kill Miraz, the Tanmore army will be thrown into chaos, and we might have a chance to turn defeat into victory. No, Caspian interjected. That's not the right approach. The king is the ruler of the Tamorians, but a considerable amount of power is also held by the parliament. Just killing Miraz won't be enough. They can elect another leader in a short time, and we can't predict what kind of character the new leader will have. They might retreat, or they might speed up their onslaught to avenge the king. It's really complicated, Aaron said, exasperated. But it's okay, I didn't intend to help you kill people. Caspian couldn't hold back his frustration. This is no time for jokes. Yes, Edmund agreed. We need your strength for the next battle. We don't know how to use sniper rifles. Your skills are indispensable. Chapter 439, Never Surrender. Initiate a one-on-one challenge. I just said I won't kill people, but I didn't say I can't help you with the other things, Aaron pointed out. For example, a catapult. Caspian froze for a moment. That's fine. 14 rounds are barely enough, but then... The rest has nothing to do with me, Aaron interrupted. I also have principles. Unless the crime is really heinous, I will not kill someone. But it's a war, said Peter. I have never had any enmity with the Tamorians, nor have I met the Narnians by chance. In other words, I'm just passing by, and getting too involved won't do me any good, Aaron said seriously. Lucy wanted to persuade him again, but was stopped by Susan's stern look. You may not want to hear it, but I really don't want to participate in the war. What I can do is save some people from Narnia. Other than that, I only kill people who want to kill me. Peter was silent for a moment, then nodded slightly and said, This can be regarded as being honest with each other. We won't force you if you don't want to charge, but thank you for your help. You're welcome. In the early morning of the next day, Miraz arrived with an army of Tamorians. Peter and the others stood atop the fortress, looking at the mighty army on the opposite side, their hearts sinking to the bottom of the valley. Fully armed, there must be thousands of troops here. There are also several giant trebuchets and a row of catapults. Aaron couldn't help but smacked his lips and sighed. This battle is not easy to fight. We can see that, and we don't need you to remind us, Caspian said, exasperated. Let's go back first. We have to figure out a countermeasure before they set up camp, Peter said in a deep voice. Everyone gathered in a simple stone room and started a meeting around a stone table. What do you think? Peter asked, looking at Aaron. It was agreed yesterday that I can only deal with those heavy weapons. You are the only wizard among us, and your opinion is very valuable. Aaron rubbed his nose, embarrassed. The number of enemies is 3 times that of ours, and they are well-equipped and well-trained. Confronting them head-on is disadvantageous. Allowing the enemy to kill us is not an option. There is only one way. We will never surrender. The centaur leader interrupted immediately. Surrender would be worse than death. My suggestion is simple. Run away. The 2 words fell, and the representatives of various races participating in the meeting were stunned for a moment. The next moment, there were shouts and curses one after another. We will never retreat. This is the last dignity of Narnia. Knights will fight to the last moment. This is our land. Aaron looked at the indignant crowd and couldn't help shrinking his neck. This is the best way I can think of. Our chances of winning are very low, and it can even be said that both sides will suffer from victory. However, the population of the Tamorians is much larger than that of the Narnians. It doesn't matter if their first attack fails. As long as they don't suffer heavy damage, they can organize a second or even a third attack after a period of recuperation. Retreat now, preserve your vitality, and there will always be a chance to regain your homeland in the future. But we have no way out, Troff said with a solemn expression. The Narnians thought the same way hundreds of years ago. We barely survived until now by lingering in the woods. We can no longer hide, or we will just fade away with time. Miraz wouldn't give us a chance to hide, Trumpkin added. He said he'd cut down every tree in the woods. Aaron shrugged. There's nothing to say. Let's fight. Every one of us thinks so, Peter said calmly. What I want to know is if you have any better suggestions for us to keep this fortress safe. Aaron hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to say. You really have a way? Susan asked in surprise. I can't say it's a solution. I can only say that it might help, Aaron replied. Ayed, looking puzzled. The Timorians want this fortress, but... Caspian couldn't listen anymore. What are you talking about? I'm not being alarmist. If we abandon this fortress, we will lose our last barrier. Listen to him, Peter interjected. Aaron looked at Caspian. You've hollowed out a field in front of the bunker to deal with the Timorian cavalry. That's why we can't abandon this fortress, Caspian explained patiently. It's hard for us to fight against large groups of infantry on the plains, but this fortress gives us a terrain advantage. A fight to the death would be our only option, but your gun can destroy catapults and heavy crossbows, which means they can't take down the fort easily. In a hand-to-hand battle in the bunker, we might still have a chance of winning. Superficial, Aaron scoffed, curling his lips in disdain. It's obvious you've never fought a war. Your strategic vision is really embarrassing. Don't make it sound like you've been at war, Caspian retorted. There was no Gaius name in the history of Narnia hundreds of years ago. In the future, Gaius will become the legend of Narnia, Aaron said confidently. King Peter once called this fortress a tomb, which I think is quite appropriate. Thank you for the compliment, Peter said angrily. But if we don't have a better plan, this place might really become a tomb. The key is whose tomb it will be. Aaron snapped his fingers. A red light flashed on the stone table, and a model of a small fortress appeared. Can I learn magic? Lucy asked with interest, her eyes full of expectation. I'm afraid not. Aaron shook his head, extinguishing the little girl's longing. You don't have any wizard blood, and you don't have the talent to learn magic. Is there no hope at all? Lucy persisted. Give it up. Don't waste time on this. Maybe there is magic that ordinary people can learn, but I haven't found it yet. Ahem, Susan coughed. Let's focus on the important matters. Aaron came back to his senses, pointed to the front of the projection of the bunker, and continued. There is an entrance in the front, and Caspian dug 2 tunnels in advance to lead to the rear of the cavalry. In other words, there are 3 entrances to this fortress, but no exit. What are you trying to say? Caspian asked. Your idea is to use traps to deal with the cavalry, and then rely on your familiarity with the bunker to fight the infantry. So why not think further? For example, set up the bunker as a trap for dealing with infantry. Hearing this, Caspian seemed to understand something, and the others seemed to grasp the idea but couldn't pinpoint the details. Can you be more specific? Cornelius asked. Hey, your IQ is really worrying me. Aaron shook his head speechlessly, reached out, and pointed to the back of the castle, revealing an exit. Introduce the infantry into the bunker. We use our familiarity with the castle to shake them off and leave through the tunnel. At this point, the inside of the bunker is full of enemies. If the bunker is destroyed, at least 1/3 of the infantry can be buried if we're lucky. Peter slapped the table, feeling the sullenness in his chest dissipate. Let's do it this way. If it succeeds, the strength advantage of the Timorians will be wiped out. This strategy is good, but there are 2 problems in its implementation, Edmund said hesitantly. I know it's a shame to say this, but we simply don't have the ability to destroy this fortress. After his words fell, everyone looked at Aaron in unison. They were just mortals, and it would take a lot of time to tear down a fortress, but wizards must have other ways. Hey! Don't look at me like that. That look always makes me feel stressed. We need the power of magic, Susan said righteously. This may be the reason why you came to Narnia. Don't be funny. Magic is not for killing people, Aaron sneered. Helping you deal with those large weapons and giving advice is already my best effort. I'm not some kind of omnipotent savior, so don't ski for more. Why would you ask me to do such a job, killing thousands of people at once? I'm only 15, and I don't want to have nightmares at night, I protested. Then you should come up with another idea, Peter said anxiously. This fortress isn't as strong as Tamar Castle, but it's almost impossible for us to destroy it quickly. Can you be a little wiser? Aaron glanced at Peter and the others with a caring gaze, causing an unnatural blush to appear on their faces. So, you still have a way, right? Lucy asked shyly. Aaron took a deep breath. Complicated problems are often simple. Your point of view is too intuitive. There are many ways to destroy a bunker. It doesn't necessarily have to involve demolishing the foundation. The easiest way is to set fire to it. Prepare enough kerosene, dry firewood, and hay in the bunker. After we leave, Susan can shoot a rocket from a distance, and the whole fortress will become a fiery furnace. Everyone shivered at the thought of that scene, and looked at Aaron with a little fear. This is too cruel, Peter said with an unnatural expression. You said it was a war. To be kind to the enemy is to be cruel to oneself. Besides, there isn't much difference between being burned to death and being buried alive, since they are all dead anyway. Don't say it so calmly, okay? Troff said tremblingly. Given the choice between being burned to death or being stoned to death, anyone with a sane mind would choose the latter. Since you're so kind, you might as well work hard and use your claws to break the foundation of the bunker. Forget it. Troff changed his tune immediately. If burning it is the only way, then so be it. They attacked us first. I'm going to ask people to gather all our flammable materials and try to cover the entire bunker floor, the leader of the Centaurs said. This is the second issue I want to address, Edmund interjected. Whether it's digging a new tunnel or preparing and laying in flammable materials, we need time, but the Temorian army has already set up camp. From what I know of Miraz, he won't drag this war out until tomorrow. The attack will be launched in the afternoon at the latest, Caspian said gravely. The earliest would be at noon. Delaying time? Aaron tapped his chin, then turned to look at Caspian. I don't think His Royal Highness the Prince would mind meeting his uncle. I'm afraid it won't work, said Susan. Miraz is not a gentleman. If he saw Caspian, he might shoot him straight away. Then I can't help it. Aaron spread his hands. When two armies confront each other, the best way to delay time is to negotiate. Whether it's groveling or domineering, it can achieve the goal. But if the other party doesn't even want to see the envoy, then it's useless. No, there is hope, Caspian said suddenly. Miraz is undoubtedly a tyrant and a murderer, but as a king, he must consider traditional concepts and the will of the people. One way to buy us a little time is to challenge him to a one-on-one duel, a duel that only the kings of both sides can participate in. I like this tradition, Aaron said with a smile. Your ancestors must have lost their minds. They obviously had a huge advantage, yet they still wanted to gamble with the king's safety. The first thing I did after I took the throne was to get rid of this tradition, Caspian said, the corner of his mouth twitching. Wait, what does it mean that the king can participate? Susan asked worriedly. Does it mean that we want Peter and Miraz to fight? Caspian nodded reluctantly. Only the king can represent the countries of both parties. We can let someone impersonate, Edmund suggested. In short, Aaron and Peter are about the same height. Aaron, why is this my business? Nonsense. Peter may not be able to beat Miraz, but you can. I won't go. Aaron refused without even thinking about it. I've been upright since I was a child, and it is impossible for me to pretend to be someone else. Besides, with my one-of-a-kind temperament, when standing wit, huffed Peter, it was clear to everyone who the true leader was. Peter staggered, feeling the weight of the moment. What do you mean? I admit that I am not as good as you, but does that mean I am not worthy to be a king? Caspian replied calmly, I don't care about appearances. Before the duel, both sides need to confirm each other's identities. I'll go, Peter said, turning to the other representatives. I will do my best to buy us time. I leave the tunnels and inflammables to you. Understood, Your Majesty, Troff responded. Many of us have stored charcoal and dry firewood for the winter. It should be enough to cover the entire bunker. If the plan is successful, our chances of winning will increase significantly, Peter nodded. The remaining uncertainty depends on the outcome of the battle. I can go to Aslan, Lucy suddenly offered. I have seen him in the depths of the forest. He must be waiting for me to take the initiative to find him. Peter hesitated for a moment, then nodded firmly. Maybe we have to trust you this time. No, Chumpkin interjected. It's too dangerous for a little girl like you to go deep into the forest. This is the best way to reduce casualties, Lucy insisted. Aslan will help us. If he steps forward, all problems can be properly resolved. Chapter 440, Pretentious Negotiation, Miraz Riding a Tiger. She will not go alone, Susan declared, standing up. I will go with her, and we will definitely find Aslan. We've already had enough dead, Chumpkin said dejectedly, looking at Lucy. You don't need to take risks. Nikabri was my friend, but he lost hope, Troff added. But Queen Lucy didn't, and neither did I. We believed in the existence of Aslan from the beginning. Reepicheep drew his sword and made a standard knight's salute. For Aslan. Chumpkin was silent for a moment. Then I will go with you. No, we need you to stay here, Lucy insisted. You must hold on until we find Aslan. Let's prepare for the negotiation first, Aaron said, looking at Caspian. You know Miraz best. Write the challenge and try to make it impossible for him to refuse. Okay, no problem, Caspian replied, thinking to himself that the more high-end, majestic, and classy the challenge letter was, the more Miraz, as the king, would be unable to refuse in front of everyone. Lucy, leave your bottle, Aaron requested. Lucy subconsciously covered her medicine bottle and asked, a little puzzled, what's the reason this time? Peter's life and death duel. It's not too much to prepare some healing things in advance, Aaron explained. Hearing this, Lucy looked at Peter worriedly and took off the red medicine bottle from her waist. I hope you don't need it. Peter gave her a comforting smile and didn't say much. It was impossible to avoid injuries entirely. His and Miraz's swordsmanship levels were about the same, and injuries were inevitable. But with this medicine bottle, the odds of winning could be increased significantly. 2 hours later, Edmund, who had changed into a suit of armor, took the letter of challenge and, accompanied by Aaron, went down to the camp of the Telmarines. Why should I follow you here? Aaron asked, feeling depressed. In case the talk falls apart, you can at least bring me out, Edmund said firmly. The corner of Aaron's mouth twitched. Believe me, the effect will be better if you bring a team. Men and horses are good, but they can't stop their archers. But you are different. Your fighting power is obvious to all. If you go to Miraz with me, even if he refuses the challenge, nothing will happen to us. Aaron sighed. It's a bit like pretending to be a tiger, but I have to admit that you have a good vision. I will try my best to cooperate with you later. I also have some experience in negotiation. The two arrived at the Telmarines' camp and directly reported their identities as envoys. The vigilant soldiers did not dare to neglect them and immediately sent someone to report to the king. After a while, the soldiers returned and took them to the temporary king's tent. Miraz sat proudly on the main seat. On his left and right sides were General Sepespian, Council Elder Glazel, and other high-ranking figures. He looked at Edmund standing below playfully, as if watching a monkey. But when he set his eyes on the cynical Aaron, the playfulness was instantly replaced by vigilance. You are here to surrender? Miraz asked with a smile. He had a certain understanding of the Narnians. Their nobility would not allow them to surrender to the enemy. The question was just to undermine their spirit. Aaron couldn't help but laugh. I'm sorry, Mr. Miraz. King, Miraz corrected emphatically. I am the king now. Okay, King Miraz, Aaron said indifferently. I have also received professional training. No matter how funny it is, I will not laugh unless I can't help it. What do you mean? Miraz asked, his smile fading. Aaron pointed to Edmund. Read it to them. Otherwise His Majesty the King will think we are easy to bully. Edmund pretended to be calm, then unfolded a scroll and read in a straight voice. I, Peter, have been ordered and appointed by Aslan, King of Narnia, Lord of Cair Paravel, and Emperor of the Lone Islands. Bloodshed is inevitable, so I hereby challenge the usurper Miraz to a contest of martial arts. The contest takes life as the bet, and the reward is the complete. Tell me, Prince Edmund, Miraz said lightly. King, Edmund corrected. What did you say? It's actually King Edmund, though Peter is the real king. I know, it's kind of messy. Ancient Narnia was ruled by 4 kings, Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. But Peter was the eldest of the 4, Aaron explained. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. Okay, Edmund. King, Miraz reluctantly accepted the explanation and said indifferently, Our army can annihilate you in one fell swoop. Why should I risk accepting this proposal? I also said it's just a fight to the death, Aaron replied with some dissatisfaction. We may not lose. Pretentious, Miraz looked at Aaron suspiciously, a hint of disdain on the corner of his mouth. If you really had confidence, you wouldn't wait for us to attack. Did you underestimate our numbers? Edmund laughed. There was no Narnia a week ago. Now you just wait for it to disappear, Miraz said coldly. If you don't dare, just say so. You are scaring someone so harshly, Aaron mocked unceremoniously. But I also understand that King Miraz is over 30 years old after all, and he is a little older than a young warrior. It's not right to bully the weak. It should be said that boxing is afraid of the young. When Miraz heard this, several black lines appeared on his forehead. He gritted his teeth and said, It's not a matter of daring or not. Didn't you refuse? I didn't say no. Miraz paused, but before he could finish speaking, a general beside him interrupted. We support your majesty, whatever your decision. Your majesty, our military superiority is the most sufficient reason, Pusupi chimed in. It is completely possible to avoid unnecessary. Hearing this, Miraz's eyes widened in astonishment. What do you mean by saying this? Put pressure on him? If he didn't accept the challenge, would they really think he was afraid? Miraz immediately drew out his long sword, looked at Pusupi fiercely, and said, I didn't want to avoid anything. I just want to point out that His Majesty has the right to refuse a martial arts competition, Pusupi said confidently, but in a strange way. Your Majesty will never refuse, General Thorpe suddenly said. He likes to take the opportunity to show the people the courage of the new king. Miraz was stunned. He was clearly the king, yet he was completely undermined by his courtiers with just a few words. He felt there might be traitors in his team, but these people were thinking of him inside and out, and he couldn't find anything wrong at all. After a few seconds of silence, he pointed his sword at Edmund. You better hope your brother's sword is sharper than his pen. To prevent Miraz from seeing any flaw, Edmund had kept a constant smile since he entered. Now that Miraz agreed to the duel, the stone in his heart fell to the ground, and the stiff expression on his face almost didn't stop. What a pity, Aaron smacked his lips regretfully. How can you accept it? You should be secretly happy now. Miraz almost laughed angrily. Really not, Aaron shook his head solemnly. If Peter wasn't worried about hurting both sides and wanted to find a gentle solution to the problem, I wouldn't have come here at all. I thought just now that it would be fine if you refused, and that it would be fair and above board to fight a battle openly. It's cheap and good-looking. I have agreed to the duel request. What else do you want? Nonsense. In my opinion, this duel is meaningless. If Peter loses, he will definitely die, but the remaining Narnians may not surrender. And if you lose, you may be lucky enough to survive, but after you are safe, you may sound the horn of attack immediately. In short, no one will abide by the rules of the contract, Aaron said solemnly, his eyes sweeping over everyone in the camp. They all looked elsewhere subconsciously. Then you still dare to come? Miraz asked in surprise. The hope is slim, but we have to give it a try, Aaron said. This is Peter's idea, and it has nothing to do with me, Aaron said helplessly. My idea is simpler. If a duel is unavoidable, it can serve to liven up the atmosphere before the official battle. If the king can be beheaded, the morale of our side will be greatly increased, and our chances of winning will improve significantly. Of course, the same goes for you. The corner of Miraz's mouth twitched slightly, and he wanted to cry in his heart. Peter really needed a duel to boost his morale, but Miraz did not. His army would remain stable if they simply advanced. However, having agreed to a duel in front of so many people, he, the newly enthroned king, couldn't go back on his word. If he won, it wouldn't matter much, but if he lost, it would be a huge joke. His throne was not secure yet, and his life could be at risk. Let's set a time, Aaron suggested. Timur's army set up camp this morning, and the entire army hasn't rested yet. I don't want to take advantage of you, so how about setting the time for this duel at this time tomorrow? Okay. Miraz immediately agreed without doubting him. When the two of them exited the camp, Edmund's legs went limp, and he almost staggered and fell to the ground. That scared me. What you said was a bit aggressive. Aren't you afraid that Miraz will overturn the table? He won't, Aaron said confidently. At the beginning of the negotiation, the distance between me and him was less than 10 meters. My force is still threatening to ordinary people. As long as it doesn't embarrass him too much, he won't act rashly. Although I used a little provocation, it was the generals and council elders of the Tamor people who really forced him to make a choice. This wave of backstabbing will definitely make him doubt his life. Sometimes, the truth can be more intimidating than a lie. I made the meaning and value of the life and death duel clear, and he will never think that we are delaying time. Edmund was speechless, but soon his face was filled with a relaxed smile. Originally, I just wanted to postpone it until the afternoon, but you pushed it directly to tomorrow, which can be considered over-fulfilling the task. That's not important. The important thing is that Miraz's current throne is unstable. Aaron frowned slightly. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that refusing the challenge is the best choice, but there are actually 3 people in his camp who forced him to agree. This is a bit abnormal. It shouldn't matter, right? Edmund said, a little uncertain. Maybe, but the struggle for power is often endless. From the current point of view, Caspian lost to Miraz, but who can guarantee that others will not covet the throne? It is, in a way, a small miracle that you 4 brothers have ruled Narnia for so many years and lived in harmony. Edmund froze for a moment, then scratched his head in confusion. It's really complicated, but it has nothing to do with us. The decisive battle between the Tamorians and Narnia is about to begin. Even if they want to fight among themselves, they should wait for the war to end. Indeed. After walking a long way, the two returned to the bunker. Caspian immediately leaned forward. Well, he agreed, didn't he? Of course, there's nothing that can't be done if King Edmund goes out in person, Edmund said triumphantly. Not only did he agree, but we also postponed the duel until noon tomorrow. Great, Peter clapped his hands, a little excited. It's okay to dig a tunnel, but it's not easy to get all those inflammables. It's better to do it under the cover of night. We'll set off in the afternoon, Susan said seriously. Although Lucy had a certain degree of confidence in finding Aslan, she would have more hope if they set off earlier. Caspian nodded slightly and led Lucy and Susan to a black horse. Daziki is a horse that is good at fighting and has always taken good care of me. He will work hand in hand with you. Hand in hand? Lucy laughed. Horses should be hooves. Caspian smiled helplessly as he helped the two of them onto the horseback. He looked at Susan and was silent for a few seconds before saying, "Good luck." "Thanks," Susan replied. Caspian then took out the magic horn. "Maybe it should be returned to its original owner," he suggested. "Why don't you keep it?" Susan said. "You may need to find me again." Caspian froze for a moment, a blush rising on his face. He hesitated, unsure whether to let go of the horn. I might not have come at the right time," Aaron said, emerging from the darkness with a teasing smile. "Did I interrupt a confession?" "No," Caspian and Susan said in unison, but both turned their faces away in embarrassment after speaking. "Tsk. There's nothing wrong with admitting it. This kind of mutual eye-to-eye situation is quite rare. You should cherish it," Aaron remarked. "Why do you seem so experienced?" Lucy asked curiously. "If you had a family, no, a group of elders urging you to start a family as soon as possible, and even arranging blind dates before graduation, you'd know how difficult it is to find someone you like," Aaron explained. "You're only 15 years old," Lucy said in surprise. "Age has never been a problem," Aaron said, spreading his hands. "At least, they don't think so." "What are you doing here?" Caspian asked. "Don't worry, I'm not interested in your girlfriend," Aaron said, patting Caspian on the shoulder. He reached out and took a silver pistol from a red magic circle. It's impossible for 2 girls to go deep into the forest without any weapons to defend themselves. Susan is a good archer, but Lucy, her dagger could barely sharpen a pencil in my opinion. Here, 12 bullets. Use them wisely.